Hello guys, welcome to Scion What If. So in this video, we will see what if Goku entered the Jujutsu Kaisen world. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Stranger in a strange realm. The dimensional rift cracked open like lightning splitting the sky. 1 second, Son Goku was training with Whis on Beerus's planet, trying to perfect a new technique that involved controlling his ki at microscopic levels. The next second, he was falling. Hohoaya. Goku tumbled through empty space, colors blurring past him in streams of light. The sensation wasn't entirely unfamiliar, he'd used instant transmission countless times, but this felt different. Rougher. Uncontrolled. He hit solid ground with enough force to crater the pavement beneath him. Dust billowed up around his impact point as Goku stood up, brushing debris from his orange GI. That was weird. He scratched his head, looking around at unfamiliar surroundings. Hey, Whis. You there? Only silence answered him. Goku found himself standing in what looked like an ordinary city park. Trees swayed gently in the breeze. A few benches dotted the walkways. Nothing seemed particularly unusual, except for the fact that he definitely wasn't on Beerus's planet anymore. Hello. Goku called out, cupping his hands around his mouth. Anybody know what happened to me? A few people walked by, giving him curious glances but otherwise ignoring the strange man in the bright orange fighting uniform standing in a small crater. This wasn't entirely surprising to Goku. People on Earth often had a strange ability to ignore the extraordinary happening right in front of them. Goku closed his eyes, focusing his senses outward. Something felt off. The energy signatures around him weren't quite what he was used to. He could sense people, yes, but their ki felt muted, different somehow. And there was something else, a strange, dark energy he'd never encountered before. Guess I should figure out where I am, he muttered to himself. With a light push of energy, Goku lifted off the ground and shot upward, hovering about 100 feet in the air to get a better view. The city sprawled out below him, bustling with life. It looked like a normal metropolis, with tall buildings, streets filled with cars, and people going about their daily lives. From the architecture and signs, it appeared to be somewhere in Japan. Looks like Earth, but something's not right. Goku frowned, concentrating harder. Can't sense Gohan, Vegeta, or any of the others. And this weird energy. A ripple of something dark and malevolent caught his attention from several blocks away. It felt hungry, aggressive, like nothing he'd sensed before. And it was moving quickly. Well, might as well check it out. Goku grinned, his Saiyan blood already stirring at the prospect of encountering something new. He shot through the air toward the disturbance. Landing in a narrow alleyway, Goku looked around cautiously. The dark energy was stronger here, practically pulsing in the air. But he couldn't see anything unusual. Hello? Anyone there? He called out. A low, gurgling growl answered him. Goku spun around, dropping automatically into a fighting stance. There, at the end of the alley, lurked something. It was vaguely humanoid but twisted, with too many limbs and a body that seemed to shift and flow like oil. Its face, if you could call it that, was a mess of eyes and teeth, with no discernible features otherwise. The thing radiated malice. Whoa, what are you supposed to be? Goku asked, genuinely curious despite the creature's obviously threatening posture. The thing responded by lunging at him with surprising speed, elongating its arms into blade-like appendages. Goku sidestepped easily, watching as the creature crashed into the spot where he'd been standing. Hey now, I just wanted to talk. The monster whirled, its body contorting impossibly as it launched another attack. This time, Goku met it with a simple palm strike, putting just enough force behind it to send the creature flying back into the wall. Ichem. You're pretty weird, but not very strong, Goku observed, walking toward the crumpled form. Are you some kind of alien? I've met lots of those. The creature hissed, dark energy swirling around it as it reformed its damaged body. Suddenly, it paused, seeming to focus on Goku with greater intensity. All its eyes widened simultaneously, and it began to tremble, not with fear, but with what looked like excitement. Ki, so much ki. The words emerged from the creature's mouth in a distorted whisper. Give it to me. It launched itself at Goku again, but this time with renewed vigor, its movements more coordinated and purposeful. Goku blocked a flurry of strikes, surprised by the sudden increase in skill. Hey, you got better all of a sudden. That's pretty cool. As they fought, Goku noticed something strange. The creature seemed to be absorbing the ambient energy from his attacks, growing slightly stronger with each exchange. Nothing significant, but enough to be noticeable to someone with Goku's battle experience. Interesting. You feed on energy, huh? Goku jumped back, putting some distance between them. Let's try something. He focused, drawing his ki inward instead of projecting it outward as he normally would during a fight. The effect was immediate. The creature's movements became more erratic, less coordinated, as if it was being starved of something it needed. Thought so. Goku grinned. You're feeding off my energy somehow. Never seen anything quite like that before. The creature howled in frustration, launching itself at Goku with reckless abandon. This time, Goku decided to end it. With precise timing, he drove his fist straight through the center of the thing's mass. The creature let out an inhuman shriek, its body dissolving into black mist that quickly dissipated. Goku stared at the spot where the monster had been, flexing his hand thoughtfully. That wasn't a normal being. Felt more like negative energy given form. Weird. Before he could ponder further, he sensed 3 more similar energies approaching rapidly. Unlike the creature he'd just defeated, these seemed to be moving with purpose, converging on his location. More friends coming to play, huh? Goku cracked his knuckles, a smile spreading across his face. Might as well have some fun while I figure out what's going on. 3 more creatures emerged at the alley entrance, each more grotesque than the last. One resembled a giant spider with a human face on its abdomen. Another looked like a collection of broken mannequin parts fused together. The third was simply a floating mass of hands, each finger tipped with a gaping mouth. Okay, you guys are definitely the weirdest things I've ever seen, Goku admitted. And I've fought a bubblegum monster. The creatures didn't waste time with conversation. They attacked simultaneously, coordinating surprisingly well for such bizarre entities. The spider thing shot sticky webbing from its mouth while the mannequin launched detached limbs like projectiles. The hand mass circled around, clearly trying to flank him. Goku's movements were fluid and effortless. He dodged the webbing, caught a mannequin arm mid-flight, and used it to swat away the encroaching hands. His fighting style was economical, no wasted movements, no unnecessary power. Just precise, effective combat that kept all 3 creatures at bay. You guys are a little tougher as a team, he observed, ducking under another strand of webbing. But something's still off about this whole situation. As the fight continued, Goku noticed more dark energies converging on their location, not just 3 or 4 now, but dozens. All of them drawn to him like moths to a flame. This is getting crowded, he muttered, deciding to take a more aggressive approach. With blinding speed, he launched a series of precise strikes at each creature, targeting what appeared to be their core. Masses. The mannequin shattered first, its pieces turning to dust as they hit the ground. The spider followed, collapsing in on itself with a shriek. The hand mass proved more resilient, regenerating even as Goku tore through it, until he channeled a concentrated burst of ki through his palm strike, completely dissipating it. Breathing slightly heavier, though more from excitement than exertion, Goku sensed even more of the dark energies approaching. Time to find some answers, he decided, leaping upward and taking to the sky again. As he flew higher, he noticed something strange. The creatures were following his flight path, streaming out of alleys and buildings below, all moving in his direction. They're definitely attracted to me, he realized. But why? Is it because I'm not from around here? Or is it something about my energy? Before he could ponder further, he sensed 3 new energy signatures approaching, different from the creatures, more structured and controlled. Human, but with power unlike ordinary people. They were moving with purpose and speed, directly toward him. Goku hovered in midair, waiting. Might as well meet whoever was coming. The readings are off the charts, Megumi Fushiguro said, glancing at the crude curse detector in his hand as he ran alongside his classmates. Whatever's causing this many curses to gather in one place is unprecedented. Maybe it's another special grade? Nobara Kujisaki suggested, her hammer bouncing against her shoulder as she kept pace. Or someone with a technique that attracts curses? Yuji Itadori, running slightly ahead of them, called back, whatever it is, it's moving. And fast. The 3 Jujutsu sorcerers had been dispatched by Jujutsu Tech after sensors detected a massive convergence of cursed energy in downtown Tokyo. Initial reports suggested dozens of curses, possibly more, all moving toward a single point. There. Megumi pointed upward, where a figure hovered in midair. That's not normal. The 3 skidded to a stop, staring up at the man floating above them. He wore an orange martial arts gi with a blue undershirt, spiky black hair standing up in defiance of gravity. Most importantly, he wasn't using any visible means to stay airborne, no cursed technique manifesting wings or platforms. He was simply, floating. Is that even a cursed spirit? Nobara squinted. Looks human to me. No human can fly like that, Megumi countered, his expression grim. And look at the curses. All around them, cursed spirits were emerging from shadows and crevices, their attention fixed not on the 3 Jujutsu sorcerers, but on the floating man. They crawled up buildings, slithered along the ground, some even attempting to fly or jump toward him. They're drawn to him like he's some kind of cursed spirit magnet, Yuji observed. I've never seen anything like it. Above them, the floating man seemed to notice their arrival. He descended slowly, landing about 20 feet away from the trio. Up close, he looked even more human, a muscular man with a friendly face and curious eyes. He didn't exude the malice or wrongness that cursed spirits did. In fact, he was smiling. Hey there, the strange man called out, waving casually as if they'd bumped into each other at a market. You 3 feel different from the others. Mind telling me what's going on around here? I'm a little lost. The 3 Jujutsu students exchanged glances. This was not how they expected the confrontation to begin. Identify yourself, Megumi demanded, his hand hovering near his weapon. What are you doing here? Why are these curses attracted to you? The man tilted his head. Curses? Is that what those weird monsters are called? They keep attacking me. He scratched the back of his head. Oh, and I'm Son Goku. Nice to meet you. The casual introduction caught them off guard. Yuji, always the most sociable of the 3, responded automatically. I'm Yuji Itadori. These are my friends, Megumi Fushiguro and Nobara Kujisaki. Idiot, Nobara hissed. Don't introduce us to the possible threat. Sorry. It was reflex. Goku laughed. Don't worry, I'm not a threat. At least, I don't think I am. I'm just trying to figure out where I am and how to get home. 1 minute I was training with Whis, the next I was falling through some kind of portal. Landed right in this city. Portal. Megumi's eyes narrowed. Are you claiming to be from another dimension? Maybe. I'm not really sure how all that stuff works, Goku admitted. But this definitely isn't my Earth. Everything feels different. Especially your energy, it's not quite ki, but similar. Before they could respond, a massive cursed spirit crashed down between them, a 15-foot monstrosity with multiple faces embedded in its flesh and limbs that ended in curved blades. It roared, spittle flying from multiple mouths. Incoming. Yuji shouted, immediately activating his cursed energy. But before any of them could move, Goku was suddenly standing next to the creature, having crossed the distance in the blink of an eye. "Sorry, but I'm in the middle of a conversation," Goku said to the monster, sounding genuinely apologetic before driving his fist into its center mass with enough force to create a shockwave. The cursed spirit exploded outward, dissolving into nothing. The entire exchange had taken less than 2 seconds. The Jujutsu sorcerers stared in shock. Even for them, that display of speed and power was extraordinary. Did he just kill a special grade curse with one punch? Nobara whispered. Was that even a curse technique? Megumi added, his normally stoic expression showing rare surprise. Yuji, however, looked excited. That was awesome. How did you move so fast? Goku turned back to them, dusting his hands off. Oh, that was just basic movement. Nothing special. He paused, looking at them curiously. You guys fight these curses too, right? That's why you're here. We're Jujutsu sorcerers, Megumi explained cautiously. We exorcise cursed spirits to protect people. Oh. Like Ghostbusters. Goku's face lit up with recognition. We have something similar back home. My friend fortune-teller Baba deals with spirits and stuff. More cursed spirits were converging on their position, drawn by Goku's presence and the commotion of the battle. We need to move, Megumi said urgently. This area is becoming too dangerous for civilians. Goku looked around, noticing the gathering curses. Yeah, these things really seem to like me for some reason. Sorry about that. We should take him to Gojo-sensei, Yuji suggested. If anyone can figure out what's going on, it's him. Megumi hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But we'll need to clear a path first. He slammed his hand on the ground. Come, divine dogs. His Shikigami emerged, rushing toward the approaching curses. Nobara readied her hammer and nails, while Yuji charged forward with enhanced strength. You guys are pretty strong. Goku observed with obvious delight, watching them fight. Mind if I help out? Without waiting for an answer, he joined the fray. What followed was unlike anything the young sorcerers had ever seen. Goku moved with incredible speed and precision, taking down curse after curse with simple, efficient strikes. There was no wasted movement, no flashy techniques, just pure, refined fighting skill backed by overwhelming physical power. He's not even using cursed energy, Megumi realized, watching as Goku tore through a group of spirits that would have given most sorcerers significant trouble. Whatever he's using, it's effective, Nobara replied, hammering a nail into a curse's face. As they fought, more powerful curses began to appear, drawn by the commotion and Goku's strange energy. One particularly massive spirit, resembling a mountain of flesh with countless limbs and a cavernous maw, loomed over a nearby building. That's a problem, Megumi muttered, already looking exhausted from summoning multiple Shikigami. I got this one. Goku called out cheerfully. He cupped his hands at his side, a blue light beginning to glow between his palms. Ka. Me. The Jujutsu students stopped fighting, transfixed by the rapidly growing energy. Ha. Me. The blue light intensified, condensing into a sphere of brilliant energy that illuminated the entire street. HAA. Goku thrust his hands forward, releasing a massive beam of blue-white energy that streaked toward the enormous curse. When it hit, the creature didn't just dissolve, it was completely obliterated, along with a significant portion of the building behind it. The energy beam continued upward into the sky before dissipating. Silence fell. The remaining smaller curses, seemingly sensing the fate of their larger companion, began to retreat, disappearing back into the shadows. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara stared at Goku, then at the destruction his attack had caused. Oops, Goku said, looking a bit embarrassed. Might have overdone it a little. Don't worry, I made sure no people were in that part of the building. Before any of them could respond, slow clapping broke the silence. A tall figure with white hair, blindfolded eyes, and an unmistakable presence walked toward them, applauding leisurely. "Well, that was quite the light show," Satoru Gojo said, his perpetual smile in place. "I felt that energy spike from across the city. Interesting technique you have there. Son Goku." Goku introduced himself brightly. "And you are?" "Satoru Gojo. The strongest Jujutsu sorcerer." Gojo's hidden eyes seemed to study Goku intensely despite the blindfold. "You're not from around here, are you?" "Nope. Got dropped here through some kind of portal or something. Still trying to figure it out." Gojo nodded slowly. "I thought as much. Your energy signature is unusual. Not cursed energy, something else entirely." He turned to his students. "Good work tracking this situation, but I'll take over from here. Our visitor needs to come to Jujutsu Tech for a chat." "Is that your school?" Goku asked. "Sounds good to me. Maybe you can help me figure out how to get home." "Oh, and why these cursed things keep coming after me?" "That's exactly what I intend to find out," Gojo replied, his casual tone belied by the intensity radiating from him. "After seeing that energy attack of yours, I'm very interested in learning more about where you come from, Son Goku." Jujutsu Tech's main campus was impressive, even to someone who had seen as many strange and wonderful places as Goku had. The traditional architecture blended with modern security measures, all overlaid with subtle barriers that Goku could feel but not quite identify. As Gojo led him through the grounds, Goku noticed students stopping to stare. He waved cheerfully at them, earning confused looks in return. "So this is where you train kids to fight those cursed things?" Goku asked, looking around with genuine interest. "Jujutsu sorcerers," Gojo corrected. "And yes, though not all students survive the training." "That's pretty harsh," Goku frowned. "Training should be tough, but not deadly. In our world, the alternative is worse. Cursed spirits don't show mercy." Gojo glanced at him. "I get the feeling that where you're from, the rules are different." "Yeah, we have plenty of dangerous stuff too, but..." Goku trailed off, thinking of the relatively ordered nature of his universe, where even the gods of destruction followed certain rules. "It seems more organized, I guess." Gojo led him to a spacious office where Principal Yaga was waiting, along with several other jujutsu sorcerers Goku didn't recognize. The students from earlier, Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara, were also present, looking somewhat intimidated by the gathering. "So this is our dimensional visitor," Principal Yaga said, studying Goku with intense eyes. "The one who's been causing quite the stir among cursed spirits across Tokyo." "Sorry about that," Goku replied, rubbing the back of his neck. "Didn't mean to cause trouble." "Trouble finds those with power, regardless of intent," Yaga observed. "Gojo tells me you possess energy unlike anything in our world. Would you mind explaining exactly what you are?" Goku looked around the room, noting the tense postures and cautious expressions. These people didn't fully trust him yet, which was fair enough. He decided honesty was the best approach. "I'm a scion. Well, technically I was born a scion, but I was raised on Earth. My Earth, not yours." He launched into a simplified explanation of his origins, his training in martial arts, and his various adventures defending Earth from threats. As he spoke, the expressions around the room ranged from skepticism to fascination. Yuji, in particular, seemed enthralled by tales of the Dragon Balls and Goku's battles with increasingly powerful enemies. "So in your world, this ki energy is something anyone can learn to use?" one of the sorcerers asked when Goku finished. "Pretty much, yeah. Some people have more natural talent than others, but everyone has ki. It's just life energy." Goku demonstrated by forming a small ball of golden energy in his palm. "See? Simple stuff." The energy ball illuminated the room with warm light, completely different from the cold, ominous aura of cursed energy. Several of the sorcerers leaned forward, fascinated. And this energy is what allowed you to fly and fire that beam attack? Gojo asked. Yep. The Kamehameha wave is a basic key technique. I've got plenty of others too. Goku let the energy dissipate. So, any idea how I can get back home? I was kind of in the middle of training, and my wife Chi-Chi gets really mad when I disappear without telling her. The sorcerers exchanged glances. Interdimensional travel isn't something we deal with regularly, Yaga admitted. We'll need time to research this phenomenon. In the meantime, there's another pressing concern, the cursed spirit's unusual attraction to you. Yeah, what's up with that? Goku asked. They keep coming at me, but they're not very strong. That's because they're feeding on your energy, a new voice said. A woman with a scholarly appearance entered the room, carrying several instruments and scrolls. Fascinating readings, by the way. Your ki resonates at frequencies similar to cursed energy but with positive rather than negative spiritual alignment. This is Professor Yeri, Gojo introduced. Our resident expert on cursed energy mechanics. The professor approached Goku without fear, holding up various instruments that beeped and whirred. The cursed spirits are drawn to you because your energy is so abundant and potent. It's like putting a feast in front of a starving man. They can sense it, they want it, but they can't fully process it without adapting first. That explains why that first one got stronger after fighting me for a bit, Goku realized. Precisely. It was learning to metabolize your energy signature. She made some notes. Continued exposure to you could potentially create extremely dangerous evolved cursed spirits. Ones capable of using aspects of this ki you possess. The room went silent as everyone processed this implication. So I'm basically supercharging these things just by being here. Goku frowned. That's not good. No, it isn't, Yaga agreed. Until we can find a way to return you to your dimension, we need to limit your exposure to cursed spirits. That means keeping you here at Jujutsu Tech, where our barriers can partially mask your energy signature. Goku nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. I'll help however I can. If these curses are getting stronger because of me, it's my responsibility to deal with them. Your cooperation is appreciated, Yaga said. For now, you'll stay on campus. Gojo will show you to quarters where you can rest. Tomorrow, we'll begin more thorough testing to understand the interaction between your ki and our world's spiritual fabric. As the meeting dispersed, Yuji approached Goku with barely contained excitement. So you're really from another world? And you've fought gods and everything? That's amazing. The enthusiasm practically radiated from the young man. Could you maybe show me some of your fighting techniques while you're here? I mean, if that's allowed, Principal Yaga. Yaga sighed. Supervised training only, and no energy projection techniques inside the buildings, please. We have enough reconstruction expenses as it is. Sure thing. Goku agreed readily. I'd love to see how you guys fight too. Those curse techniques are pretty interesting. As Gojo led Goku toward the guest quarters, the Jujutsu sorcerer's usual carefree demeanor shifted slightly. Just between us, Gojo said quietly, how powerful are you really? That beam attack barely seemed to take any effort. Goku considered the question. Honestly? I'm not sure how to measure it by your world standards. The Kamehameha you saw was maybe 1% of what I could do if I really tried. Maybe less. Gojo was silent for a moment. That's what I thought. Which means we have another problem. What's that? If regular cursed spirits are already drawn to your energy, what do you think will happen when special grade curses or curse users learn about you? Gojo's voice remained light, but there was steel underneath. You might just become the most sought-after prize in the Jujutsu world. Goku nodded slowly, understanding the implication. Wouldn't be the first time someone's tried to steal my power. But I can handle myself. I don't doubt that, Gojo replied. But can our world handle you? That's the question we need to answer. That night, in an abandoned warehouse at Tokyo's outskirts, something stirred in the darkness. A formless mass of cursed energy roiled and churned, gradually taking shape as it processed the fragments of power it had absorbed during the day's chaos. The creature that had once been a minor curse was evolving, incorporating the strange energy it had tasted when the dimensional visitor first arrived. With each passing moment, it became more defined, more intelligent, more dangerous. It had only managed to absorb a tiny fraction of the energy released during Goku's arrival, the residual ki that had spilled into this world along with the Scion. But even that small amount was transforming it into something unprecedented. The curse's body solidified, taking on a vaguely humanoid form with sleek, almost mechanical precision. Its surface rippled with patterns reminiscent of circuitry, pulsing with both dark cursed energy and faint traces of golden ki. For the first time in its existence, the entity experienced something beyond hunger and hatred. It felt curiosity, awareness, purpose. It reached out with newly developed senses, searching for more of the intoxicating power it had tasted. There, at Jujutsu Tech, behind layers of barriers and protections. The source waited, brimming with energy beyond anything this world had ever known. The entity, which would later be known as Nexus, gazed toward the school with its newly formed eyes, a plan already taking shape in its evolving mind. Soon, it would feed again. And grow stronger. The following morning, Goku awoke early, his body automatically adhering to the training schedule he'd maintained for decades. The guest room was comfortable enough, though nothing like home. For a moment, he felt a pang of worry about his family. They must be concerned about his sudden disappearance. Hope Whis figured out what happened, he murmured, stretching his muscles. Bet Vegeta's enjoying getting ahead in training while I'm stuck here. Unable to perform his usual morning routine of intense training, Goku settled for basic exercises, several thousand push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, all performed with casual ease. He was finishing his warm-up when a knock came at the door. "Come in," he called. Yuji poked his head in, his eyes widening at the sight of Goku balanced on one finger, completing push-ups at a blur-like speed. "Whoa," the young sorcerer breathed. "You're doing that without cursed energy?" Goku flipped to his feet, not even breathing hard. "Just a light warm-up. Usually, I'd train in at least 100 times Earth's gravity, but I guess that's not an option here." 100 times, Yuji shook his head in disbelief. "Gojo-sensei sent me to bring you to breakfast. Everyone's eager to talk to you more." "Great. I'm starving." Goku's face lit up at the mention of food. "Lead the way." As they walked through the campus, Yuji couldn't contain his questions. "So in your world, you're like, what? The strongest person?" Goku laughed. "Not even close. There's my rival Vegeta, who's about equal with me. Then there's Beerus, the god of destruction, who's way stronger. And his teacher Whis is even stronger than him. Plus there are other universes with their own strong fighters." "Other universes? So you have a multiverse too?" Yuji looked fascinated. 12 universes in my reality, each with its own god of destruction and supreme Kai to balance creation and destruction. Goku explained the concept as they walked. "We even had a tournament between universes once. That was pretty intense." By the time they reached the dining hall, Yuji was hanging on Goku's every word. Inside, they found Megumi and Nobara already eating, along with Gojo and several other instructors. "Morning." Goku greeted cheerfully. "Something smells amazing." The cooks had prepared an extensive Japanese breakfast, not knowing what their dimensional visitor might prefer. They were wholly unprepared for Goku's appetite. Everyone watched in astonishment as he consumed bowl after bowl of rice, dozens of grilled fish, countless eggs, and everything else available, all while maintaining a cheerful conversation. "Is this normal for you?" Nobara asked, staring as Goku finished his 15th bowl of rice. "Oh, yeah. Scions need lots of calories, especially after training. This is actually a pretty light breakfast by my standards. He patted his stomach contentedly. Really good food, though. Compliments to the chef. Gojo seemed more amused than surprised. Professor Yeri is ready to begin tests whenever you're finished. We're particularly interested in seeing the full extent of your transformations that you mentioned yesterday. Sure thing, Goku agreed easily. Just point me to somewhere I won't cause too much damage. Some of my power-ups can get a little intense. We have a specialized training ground with reinforced barriers, Gojo explained. Should be sufficient unless you're planning to destroy the planet. Goku laughed, then stopped when he noticed Gojo wasn't joking. Oh, well, I'll definitely hold back enough not to do that. The casual way he said this caused several people to choke on their food. After breakfast, they led Goku to a massive underground facility, an open space roughly the size of several football fields, with walls, floor, and ceiling made of some kind of reinforced material inscribed with complex barrier jujitsu. Professor Yeri had set up numerous instruments around the perimeter, along with several cameras and sensors. A few other researchers assisted her, all looking equal parts excited and nervous. This is where our most dangerous students train, Gojo explained, gesturing around the space. The barriers can contain most known curse techniques, though I occasionally break them when I get carried away. Goku nodded appreciatively. Nice setup. Reminds me of the hyperbolic time chamber, though not as intense. We'd like to start with baseline readings, Professor Yeri explained, approaching with a tablet. Then progress through your various power levels and transformations, if you're willing. No problem. Goku moved to the center of the training ground. Want me to start with just regular power, or jump straight to the good stuff? A gradual progression would provide the best data, she replied. Goku nodded, settling into a relaxed stance. Alright, this is me at normal, relaxed power. The sensors hummed, recording data as Goku stood perfectly still. After a minute, the professor nodded. Now, if you could power up incrementally, pausing at each significant level. Goku began to focus, drawing on his ki in a controlled manner. A gentle white aura flickered around him as he increased his power to about 50% of his base form. The sensors immediately reacted, some of them beginning to emit warning beeps. Fascinating, Professor Yeri murmured, adjusting her instruments. The energy density is orders of magnitude beyond anything we've recorded from cursed techniques. Goku continued to raise his power, the white aura intensifying until it pushed outward in visible waves. Small objects around the room began to vibrate, and the air itself seemed to ripple with energy. This is about my full power in base form, Goku explained, his voice perfectly calm despite the energy swirling around him. The professor was frantically adjusting her equipment, some of which was beginning to smoke. These readings are impossible. The spiritual density exceeds anything in our classification system. Goku grinned. Want to see Super Saiyan now? Before she could respond, Goku let out a short yell, and his energy exploded outward. His black hair flashed golden, standing up even more rigidly than before. His eyes shifted from black to teal, and the white aura transformed into a brilliant golden flame that engulfed his body. The transformation was accompanied by a shockwave that sent loose papers flying and caused several sensors to short out completely. The very air seemed charged with power, and the floor beneath Goku's feet cracked despite its reinforcements. This is Super Saiyan, Goku explained, his voice slightly deeper than before. The golden energy continued to flow around him like fire, but perfectly controlled. It multiplies my base power by about 50 times. In the observation area, the Jujutsu sorcerer stared in stunned silence. Yuji's eyes were wide with amazement, while even Megumi looked openly shocked. Nobara had taken an involuntary step back, and several of the researchers were frantically trying to save their equipment. Only Gojo maintained his composure, though his ever-present smile had been replaced by an expression of intense concentration. The barriers are holding, but straining, he noted. And this isn't even your maximum, is it? Goku shook his head. Not even close. I've got Super Saiyan 2 and 3, plus God forms beyond that. Professor Yeri, despite her equipment failures, was elated. This is revolutionary. The energy signatures are completely different from cursed energy, positive rather than negative in spiritual alignment, yet exponentially more powerful. Should I keep going? Goku asked. I can show Super Saiyan 2 if your barriers can handle it. Gojo and Professor Yeri exchanged glances. Let's pause here for now, Gojo decided. We need to process this data and reinforce the testing environment before attempting higher levels. Goku powered down, his hair and eyes returning to their normal black color, the golden aura vanishing instantly. Despite the impressive energy display, he wasn't even breathing hard. That was awesome. Yuji exclaimed, unable to contain himself any longer. Your hair changed color and everything. Can you teach me to do that? Goku laughed. Sorry, the Super Saiyan transformation is unique to my race. But the basic principles of ki control could probably work for anyone with enough training. Speaking of training, Gojo interjected, I'd be curious to see how your fighting style compares to Jujutsu. Perhaps a friendly spar. Goku's eyes lit up. Now you're talking. I'm always up for a good match. Not with me, Gojo clarified, smiling mysteriously. At least, not yet. I think starting with students closer to your base power level might be more informative. He turned to his students. Yuji, Megumi, Nobara, how about it? 3-on-1 should make it sporting. The three students looked uncertain. Are you sure that's safe? Megumi asked bluntly. We just saw him crack. Reinforced flooring by standing there. Don't worry. Goku assured them. I've got great control. I spar with my friends all the time without hurting them. I'll match myself to your level. After some discussion, they agreed to a demonstration match. Goku would face all three students simultaneously, with Gojo supervising to ensure no one got seriously injured. Just to be clear, Goku said as they took positions, I won't use any transformations or energy attacks. Just basic fighting techniques. That way it'll be more even. Megumi scoffed. Don't underestimate us. We're trained jujutsu sorcerers. I'm not underestimating you, Goku replied, dropping into his fighting stance with a smile. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do. Gojo raised his hand, then dropped it. Begin. The three students moved with coordinated precision. Megumi summoned divine dogs, sending them rushing toward Goku from either side. Simultaneously, Nobara readied her hammer and nails, while Yuji circled to attack from behind. Goku's movements were a blur. He dodged the Shikigami with casual ease, sidestepped Yuji's punch, and flipped over Nobara's hammer swing, all without seeming to exert himself. You guys work well together, he commented approvingly. Good coordination. Yuji pressed the attack, unleashing a flurry of enhanced punches that would have shattered concrete. Goku blocked or deflected each one with open palms, studying Yuji's technique with obvious interest. Your strikes have good power, Goku observed. But you telegraph your moves too much. To demonstrate, he caught Yuji's next punch, redirected the momentum, and sent the young sorcerer tumbling across the floor with a gentle push. Meanwhile, Megumi had summoned Nu, the massive chimera-like Shikigami swooping down from above. Goku looked up with interest. Cool. Spirit animals. Instead of evading, Goku met the Shikigami head-on, catching its talons mid-swoop. With a controlled motion, he redirected its flight path, sending it crashing into the wall without actually damaging it. Megumi's eyes widened. He deflected Nu with pure physical strength. Nobara, seeing an opening, activated her straw doll technique, driving a nail into the floor. Resonance. Goku felt the technique activate, a strange sensation unlike anything he'd experienced before. The cursed energy tried to connect with him, to inflict sympathetic damage, but his ki naturally repelled it. "Whoa, that's an interesting technique," he said, genuinely impressed. "Trying to attack directly with spiritual energy instead of physical force. Smart." Nobara stared in disbelief. "It didn't work." "Different energy systems," Gojo called from the sidelines. "Your resonance can't establish a proper connection with his ki." The three students regrouped, breathing hard while Goku hadn't even broken a sweat. "Let's go all out," Yuji suggested to his teammates. Coordinated attack, full power. They launched their strongest combined assault, Yuji channeling Sukuna's cursed energy through his fists, Megumi summoning Max Elephant alongside his other Shikigami, and Nobara preparing her hairpin technique. Goku's expression turned serious as he sensed the increase in power. When they attacked, he responded with greater intensity, moving at speeds that left afterimages. He evaded Megumi's Shikigami army with acrobatic precision, deflected Nobara's cursed energy with focused ki barriers, and met Yuji's enhanced strikes with perfectly timed counters. The demonstration quickly turned into a lesson, as Goku began offering advice even while defending against their attacks. "Try widening your stance for better balance," he suggested to Megumi after dodging a combination attack. "And you, to Nobara, your technique has good precision, but you leave your left side exposed." Despite the serious combat, Goku was clearly enjoying himself, his face lit with the joy of a good fight. After several minutes of increasingly desperate attacks from the students, Gojo finally called a halt. "I think that's enough," he said. "Before my students exhaust themselves completely." The three young sorcerers collapsed to the floor, panting heavily. Despite their full effort, they hadn't landed a single solid hit on Goku. "You guys are really strong," Goku said sincerely, helping Yuji to his feet. "Especially for your age. When I was your age, I wasn't nearly as skilled with energy manipulation." "We didn't even touch you," Megumi pointed out, his pride clearly wounded. "That's just experience," Goku explained. "I've been fighting for over 40 years against all kinds of opponents. You develop certain instincts after a while." Gojo approached, clapping slowly. "Very illuminating. Your fighting style is fundamentally different from Jujutsu. While we focus on cursed energy manipulation and specific techniques, you rely on raw physical ability enhanced by ki, with seemingly limitless adaptation." "I've always believed in mastering the basics," Goku replied. "Fancy techniques are great, but strong fundamentals win fights." "A philosophy worth considering," Gojo mused. "Perhaps we could arrange some training exchanges during your stay. My students could benefit from your perspective, and you might find jujitsu techniques interesting, even if you can't use cursed energy directly." "Sounds great to me." Goku agreed enthusiastically. "I love learning new fighting styles." As they discussed training possibilities, Professor Yeri approached with a concerned expression. "Excuse the interruption, but we've detected something unusual," she said, holding up a tablet with fluctuating readings. "There's a cursed spirit signature developing about 10 kilometers from here. Its energy pattern shows anomalies." "Anomalies?" Gojo's voice turned serious. "Yes. It appears to be incorporating aspects of Son Goku's ki signature. The pattern is unlike anything we've catalogued before." Goku frowned. "One of those cursed things is using my energy. How is that possible?" "Remember how I mentioned they're drawn to your power," the professor explained. "It seems one has managed to actually absorb and integrate some of the residual energy from your arrival point. It's evolving rapidly." Gojo's usual carefree demeanor vanished completely. "Location: an abandoned industrial zone in eastern Tokyo. The signature is growing stronger by the minute." Goku straightened, his expression turning serious. "If this thing is dangerous because of my energy, then I should help deal with it." "Agreed," Gojo nodded. "But we proceed with caution. If your presence accelerates its evolution further, we may need to adjust our strategy." He turned to his students. "You three, alert the other faculty. We may need backup if this entity is as unusual as the readings suggest. As the students hurried off, Gojo faced Goku directly. How quickly can you get us to the Eastern Industrial Zone? Goku grinned. How do you feel about instant transmission? The abandoned warehouse district loomed dark and foreboding, a maze of derelict buildings and rusting metal. Goku and Gojo appeared in the center of the complex, materializing instantly after Goku locked onto the strange energy signature. That's disorienting, Gojo admitted, maintaining his balance despite the sudden teleportation. Useful technique. Thanks. Learned it from aliens called yard rats, Goku explained casually, already scanning the area. The energy's coming from that big building over there. Feels weird, like my key but wrong somehow. The warehouse in question was massive, its windows broken and walls covered in graffiti. Dark energy seemed to pulse from within, visible even to normal senses as a distortion in the air. Let me take point, Gojo said, pulling down his blindfold to reveal his 6 eyes. My limitless technique should provide some protection if this entity has unpredictable abilities. Goku nodded, following as Gojo approached the warehouse entrance. The doors hung askew, twisted metal groaning in the breeze. Inside, darkness reigned supreme, broken only by faint pulses of eerie light. I'll illuminate, Goku suggested, forming a small ball of ki that hovered above his palm, casting golden light throughout the space. The warehouse interior was largely empty except for abandoned machinery and debris. At its center, however, floated something that defied easy description. It resembled a humanoid figure made of shifting darkness, with circuitry-like patterns of gold and purple energy flowing across its surface. It had no face, only a swirling vortex where features should be. Upon their entrance, the entity turned toward them, its movements unnaturally smooth. That's definitely not a normal curse, Goku observed quietly. I can feel my own energy inside it, but twisted. Special grade, at minimum, Gojo agreed. Possibly something entirely new. The entity tilted what passed for its head, studying them. Then it spoke, not with a physical voice, but with vibrations of energy that formed words in their minds. Source, found you. Goku stepped forward. Are you talking to me? What are you? I am, becoming, the entity replied. Your power, feeds evolution. Need, more. Not happening, Gojo stated flatly, his limitless already activating around him. Whatever you are, your evolution stops here. The entity seemed to consider this, the patterns on its surface flowing faster. Barrier user, obstacle. Will remove. It moved with shocking speed, launching itself toward Gojo. The Jujutsu sorcerer remained motionless, his infinity barrier automatically stopping the attack before it could connect. The entity collided with the invisible barrier, its form rippling with the impact. Interesting defense, it observed, already adapting. Will overcome. Gojo smiled coldly. Many have tried. While Gojo held the entity's attention, Goku circled to the side, studying its movements and energy signature. Something about its behavior reminded him of Cell, the way it analyzed and adapted rapidly. Hey! Goku called, drawing its attention. You said you want my power. What for? The entity turned to him, patterns shifting into new configurations. To complete evolution. To transcend limitation. To become, ultimate. Heard that before, Goku replied. Never works out well for the guy saying it. The entity launched itself toward Goku this time, moving even faster than before. Goku didn't evade, instead, he met the attack head-on, driving his fist into the entity's center mass. His fist penetrated the shadowy substance, causing the creature to ripple and distort. Instead of dissipating like the curses he'd fought earlier, however, this one seemed to absorb the impact. Tendrils of darkness wrapped around Goku's arm, attempting to extract ki directly from his body. Whoa! Goku pulled back, flaring his ki to drive the tendrils away. It's trying to drain my energy. Don't let it maintain contact. Gojo warned, already moving to assist. Hollow purple. The devastating void attack tore through the warehouse, striking the entity directly. The purple-black energy sphere seemed to consume part of the creature, leaving a gaping hole in its mass. For a moment it appeared the attack had been effective, then the entity began to rebuild itself, incorporating aspects of Gojo's technique into its own structure. The circuitry-like patterns now included traces of purple similar to Gojo's attack. It's adapting to our techniques, Goku realized. Getting stronger with each attack. Then we end this quickly, Gojo replied. Domain expansion. Before Gojo could complete the technique, the entity released a pulse of mixed energy, part cursed energy, part ki, that disrupted the forming domain. The pulse hit both fighters, sending them skidding backward. It's learning too fast, Goku observed, his expression serious now. Time to stop holding back. With a sharp yell, Goku transformed into Super Saiyan, his golden aura illuminating the entire warehouse. The entity seemed to recoil momentarily from the intense energy, then oriented toward him with renewed interest. Yes, the true source power, it communicated. Give it to me. Come and get it, Goku challenged, dropping into a fighting stance. The entity surged forward, its form elongating into razor-sharp appendages aimed at multiple points on Goku's body. Goku moved with Super Saiyan speed, dodging or deflecting each attack with precision. Meanwhile, Gojo prepared a different approach, his hands weaving complex patterns as he formulated a binding technique. Keep it occupied, he called to Goku. I need 30 seconds. No problem. Goku replied, increasing his speed further. He engaged the entity in close combat, careful to avoid prolonged contact while keeping it fully focused on him. His strikes were precise, targeting what appeared to be the core mass of the creature without allowing it to grab or absorb his energy. The entity adapted with each exchange, its movements becoming more fluid, more predictable of Goku's attacks. But Goku was adapting too, constantly varying his approach, never using the same combination twice. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. Goku called to Gojo. This thing's getting smarter by the second. Almost there, Gojo replied, cursed energy swirling around his hands in complex patterns. The entity, perhaps sensing the danger, suddenly changed tactics. Instead of attacking Goku directly, it released a wave of hybrid energy throughout the warehouse, targeting support columns and structural elements. The building began to collapse around them, massive steel beams and concrete chunks falling from above. Goku reacted instantly, moving at super speed to intercept the largest debris before it could crush Gojo and disrupt his technique. While catching a massive support beam with one hand, he used his other to fire precision ki blasts that vaporized smaller falling debris. Don't lose focus, he shouted to Gojo. Never do, Gojo replied calmly, completing his technique despite the chaos. Binding chain prison. Complex patterns of cursed energy erupted from the ground, forming intricate chains that wrapped around the entity, restricting its movement and suppressing its power. The creature writhed against the constraints, its form rippling as it tried to adapt. Got it, Gojo said, maintaining the binding with visible effort. This won't hold for long. It's already analyzing the technique. Goku didn't waste time. He gathered his ki, focusing it between his cupped hands. Ka, mi, ha, mi. The blue energy sphere grew quickly, illuminating the collapsing warehouse with brilliant light. Goku aimed carefully, ensuring the beam would hit only the entity without causing further structural damage. HAA. The Kamehameha wave struck the bound entity directly, engulfing it in blue-white energy. The creature's form began to disintegrate under the controlled but overwhelming force. For a moment, it seemed the combined attack had succeeded. Then, as the energy dissipated, they saw the entity still present, smaller, damaged, but rapidly reforming. Impossible, Gojo muttered. It should have been completely destroyed. It absorbed some of the attack, Goku realized, watching as golden key-like energy pulsed through the entity's remaining mass. It's using my own energy to regenerate. Before either could launch another attack, the entity suddenly contracted into a dense sphere of darkness, then exploded outward in a wave of hybrid energy. The blast tore through what remained of the warehouse, forcing both Goku and Gojo to defend themselves. When the dust settled, the entity was gone, fled through a small spatial distortion that closed before they could follow. Goku powered down from Super Saiyan, his expression troubled. It got away. Yes, but not. Unscathed, Gojo observed, replacing his blindfold. It was forced to retreat to recover. That gives us time to prepare. They surveyed the destroyed warehouse, considering the implications of what they'd just witnessed. This is worse than I thought, Goku said seriously. That thing isn't just using my energy, it's learning, adapting, getting stronger with every fight. Like it's evolving specifically to counter both of us. A curse that can evolve beyond its nature is unprecedented, Gojo agreed. And one that can absorb and utilize aspects of both cursed energy and ki. He left the thought unfinished. We need to warn the others, Goku decided. And I need to start training your students. If that thing keeps getting stronger, you'll need every advantage you can get. Gojo nodded. Agreed. And I believe it's time for us to have that spar. I need to understand your capabilities fully if we're going to coordinate effectively against this threat. As they prepared to return to Jujutsu Tech, Goku cast one last glance at the spot where the entity had disappeared. A familiar feeling stirred in his chest, the exhilaration of facing a truly challenging opponent, mixed with concern for the potential danger it posed. This world might be strange to him, with its curses and jujitsu, but the core principle remained the same: protect the innocent from threats they couldn't handle themselves. And this new threat, born partly from his own power, was now his responsibility. Chapter 2, Worlds Collide. Goku dodged a flurry of punches from Yuji, moving just fast enough to avoid each strike without discouraging the young jujitsu sorcerer. They'd been training for hours in the reinforced underground facility, and Yuji refused to quit despite exhaustion etching lines across his face. Almost. Goku encouraged as one of Yuji's punches came within a hair's breadth of connecting. You're getting the timing down. Remember what I said about reading movements? Watch the shoulders, not the fists, Yuji gasped between breaths, launching another combination. Goku nodded approvingly. That's it. Your body telegraphs intentions before you move. Good fighters mask those tells, but great fighters can spot them no matter how subtle. From the sidelines, Nobara rolled her eyes. We get it, you're basically a fighting god. Are we going to learn actual techniques or just chase you around all day? Patience, Gojo interrupted, lounging against the wall with his typical casual pose. Goku-san's approach is different from ours, but valuable. Before you can manipulate ki, you need to understand physical fundamentals. It had been 3 days since the warehouse encounter with the evolving curse, now officially designated Nexus by Jujutsu Tech researchers. 3 days of intensive training, analysis, and preparation for what everyone agreed would be an inevitable second confrontation. Break time. Goku announced, stopping so suddenly that Yuji's next punch sailed through empty air, sending him stumbling forward. You've all been working hard. Let's eat. The word eat triggered visible dread among the Jujutsu Tech kitchen staff, who had quickly learned about Saiyan appetites. Nevertheless, a feast awaited them in the dining hall, mountains of rice, grilled meats, vegetables, and various side dishes. So, Megumi said between bites, watching Goku devour his 15th bowl of rice, you still haven't explained exactly how ki differs from cursed energy. Goku swallowed a massive mouthful. Well, from what I understand, cursed energy comes from negative emotions, right? Fear, hatred, stuff like that. When Megumi nodded, Goku continued, ki is different. It's just life energy, neutral by itself, shaped by intention and training. But you can sense it in everyone? Nobara asked, genuinely curious despite her skeptical tone. Yep. Everyone has ki, plants, animals, people. Most folks never learn to access or control it, but it's there. Goku demonstrated by forming a small golden sphere above his palm. See? Simple stuff. I've been trying for 3 days, Nobara muttered, staring at her own palm where nothing materialized. Nothing feels simple about it. Cursed energy manipulation comes from techniques passed down through generations, Gojo observed, sipping tea casually. Ki appears to be more intuitive. That's why Yuji's having an easier time, Goku explained. He relies on his natural physical abilities more than complex techniques. Makes the transition smoother. Yuji perked up at the praise. Really? You think I'm getting it? Definitely. That warmth you felt in your center yesterday? That was Ki starting to circulate. Goku grinned encouragingly. Few more days, you might even manage a small energy ball. Megumi frowned. Meanwhile, the curse we're supposed to be hunting is getting stronger by the day. The mood sobered immediately. Professor Yeri had reported multiple incidents across Tokyo, cursed spirits displaying unusual abilities, moving patterns reminiscent of ki manipulation, greater intelligence than their classification would suggest. All signs pointed to Nexus's influence spreading. We'll find it, Goku assured them. Actually, I had an idea about that. If this Nexus thing is absorbing other curses to grow stronger, we should be able to track unusual curse movements, right? Gojo nodded slowly, his hidden eyes seemingly focused on something distant. Jujutsu Tech has been monitoring curse activity patterns. There's a concentration developing in the Yokohama Port District, specifically around several abandoned shipping warehouses. Another warehouse, Nobara sighed. Do evil entities have some kind of abandoned real estate fetish? Large, empty spaces with minimal human traffic, Megumi explained practically. Ideal for curses to gather unnoticed. Yuji pushed his empty plate aside. So when do we check it out? Tonight? Not we, Gojo corrected. Goku-san and I will investigate first. If Nexus is there, we need to assess its evolution before engaging. No way. Yuji protested. We've been training for exactly this. 3 days isn't enough, Megumi countered quietly. You saw what that thing did to the warehouse. We'd just be liabilities. Goku gave the students a sympathetic look. I understand wanting to jump into action. But Megumi's right, Nexus is adapting too quickly. We need to know what we're dealing with before bringing everyone in. Besides, Gojo added with his typical light-hearted tone, someone needs to keep training. If Sun-kun and I fail spectacularly, you'll be Earth's last defense. That's not funny, Nobara muttered. It's a little funny, Gojo insisted. Moonlight cast long shadows across the Yokohama port as Goku and Gojo approached the warehouse district. They moved silently, or at least, Gojo did. Goku's attempts at stealth left much to be desired. You really don't do the whole, covert operation, thing, do you? Gojo whispered after Goku accidentally kicked an empty can, sending it clattering across concrete. Goku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Sorry. Usually I just fly in and start fighting. Sneaking around isn't really my style. I'm shocked, Gojo replied dryly. Though it might not matter, Nexus can probably sense your energy regardless. Yeah, I've been suppressing it as much as possible, but... Goku shrugged. They paused at the edge of the warehouse complex, a sprawling maze of shipping containers and dilapidated buildings. Even to normal senses, something felt wrong about the place. The air hung unnaturally still, no birds or insects made sounds, and a faint purple-gold haze seemed to permeate the atmosphere. Feel that? Goku whispered, his playfulness evaporating. The energy signature is similar to the warehouse, but much stronger. Gojo nodded, pulling his blindfold down to reveal his 6 eyes. The cursed energy concentration is enormous. Whatever Nexus is doing, it's affecting the entire area. They moved deeper into the complex, passing shipping containers that showed signs of unusual damage, not rust or normal deterioration, but strange melting patterns, as if something had partially dissolved the metal. It's extracting minerals, Gojo observed, running a finger along one container's warped surface. Interesting. Why would it need materials? Goku wondered. Building something, perhaps. The answer came as they rounded a corner and saw the central warehouse. Unlike the surrounding buildings, this one had been transformed. Its metal walls flowed with the same circuit-like patterns they'd seen on Nexus, pulsing with purple-gold energy. The entire structure had been reshaped, its corners curved into organic forms, its roof open to the night sky in a spiral pattern. Okay, that's definitely not normal architecture, Goku muttered. Before Gojo could respond, a wave of pressure washed over them, not physical, but spiritual. The air rippled as if reality itself was bending. Down! Gojo shouted, activating Limitless just as a beam of hybrid energy cut through the space where they'd been standing. Goku rolled to his feet, instantly alert. I think our sneaking days are over. From the transformed warehouse, a figure emerged, humanoid, but wrong in fundamental ways. Nexus had evolved significantly since their last encounter. Its body maintained the shadowy, fluid quality, but now possessed more defined features, limbs with proper articulation, a torso with visible musculature, and a head with approximations of facial features. The circuit-like patterns covered its entire form, pulsing with energy that was neither pure ki nor cursed energy, but something in between. The source returns, Nexus spoke, its voice no longer just in their minds but physically manifested. With the barrier user. Seems you've been busy, Gojo replied conversationally, as if addressing a colleague rather than a monstrous entity. Interesting renovations. Necessary adaptations, Nexus responded. This vessel requires improvement to contain greater power. Goku studied the creature carefully. You're still evolving. Absorbing other curses, building a stronger body. Yes. Nexus tilted its head in an almost human gesture. Your understanding grows. As does mine. What exactly are you trying to become? Goku asked, genuinely curious despite the danger. Complete. Nexus spread its arms, the warehouse behind it pulsing in sympathetic rhythm. This reality contains only fragments. Your energy showed the path to wholeness. Gojo and Goku exchanged glances, communicating wordlessly. Whatever Nexus was planning, it went beyond simple destruction. Why don't you explain this path you're talking about? Gojo suggested, subtly shifting position to create a flanking angle with Goku. Nexus seemed almost eager to share, its newly formed face approximating a smile. Dimensional boundaries. Permeable. Traversable. It gestured toward the warehouse. Building bridge. The implication hit both fighters simultaneously. You're trying to create a portal, Goku realized. To my world. Yes. Source world. More power there. Greater evolution possible. That's not happening, Gojo stated flatly. Infinity. The barrier technique activated, surrounding Nexus in an impenetrable spatial distortion. Without hesitation, Goku followed up, firing a focused ki blast directly at the immobilized creature. But Nexus had evolved far beyond their expectations. As the ki blast approached, the entity's body shifted, opening a small spatial rift that absorbed and redirected the energy into the warehouse structure, strengthening its pulsing patterns. Adaptations complete, Nexus announced, its form rippling against Gojo's infinity. Barrier analysis successful. To their shock, Nexus began passing through the supposedly impenetrable technique, its body distorting in impossible ways as it manipulated space itself. That's not possible, Gojo muttered, genuinely surprised. Unless it figured out how your technique works, Goku concluded, dropping into a fighting stance. Looks like we're doing this the hard way. Nexus emerged fully from the infinity barrier, its body reforming into an even more refined shape. Combat inevitable. Unfortunate, but acceptable. The creature moved with blinding speed, its limbs extending into blade-like appendages that attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Goku and Gojo separated, each engaging the entity from different positions. Goku dodged and weaved through the attack, careful to avoid prolonged contact with Nexus's body. It's faster than before, more coordinated. And it's figured out how to neutralize my limitless, Gojo called back, forced to rely on physical evasion rather than his barrier. At least partially. They quickly established a rhythm. Goku would attack with precise ki-enhanced strikes, forcing Nexus to defend, while Gojo looked for openings to deploy binding techniques or targeted cursed energy attacks. But for every successful hit, Nexus adapted, its body shifting to counter their methods. This isn't working, Goku observed after a particularly intense exchange left both sides reassessing. It's learning too fast. Nexus hovered several meters away, its form rippling as it processed combat data. Efficiency improved. Direct confrontation suboptimal for all parties. Is it, negotiating? Goku wondered aloud. Proposing alternative, Nexus clarified. Source energy required for dimensional bridge. Willing to exchange. Exchange what? Gojo asked warily. Knowledge. Other dimensions contain answers you seek. Nexus pointed at Goku. Path home. Available once bridge complete. Goku narrowed his eyes. You're saying you can send me back? Yes. Bridge works both directions. And why should we trust you? Gojo interjected. Self-interest. Destruction serves no purpose. Evolution requires stability. The proposition hung in the air, tempting but obviously dangerous. Goku and Gojo shared another look, communicating volumes in that brief exchange. We need to discuss this, Goku finally said. With the others at Jujutsu Tech. Acceptable, Nexus replied. Limited time frame. 24 hours. After, bridge construction continues regardless. The entity gestured toward the warehouse. Observe progress if desired. No interference will be tolerated. With that warning, Nexus flowed backward, merging with the transformed warehouse structure. The circuit patterns pulsed more intensely, as if the entire building had become an extension of Nexus itself. Well, that was unexpected, Gojo remarked once they'd retreated to a safe distance. Goku nodded thoughtfully. It's smart. Too smart for a being that was just a basic curse a few days ago. The intelligence growth is concerning. It's not just absorbing power, it's gaining knowledge, strategic thinking. Gojo replaced his blindfold, his usual carefree demeanor replaced by genuine concern. And it managed to counteract Limitless. That should be impossible for a curse. What do you think about its offer? Goku asked as they made their way back toward the port entrance. Transparently manipulative. It needs something from you, likely a significant amount of your energy to complete its bridge. Once it has that. Gojo shrugged eloquently. Yeah, that's what I figured. Goku looked back at the glowing warehouse with a frown. But we still need more information. If it really is building some kind of dimensional portal, we need to understand how it works. Agreed. And we need to prepare for what happens when diplomacy inevitably fails. Back at Jujutsu Tech, the debriefing room buzzed with tension as Goku and Gojo recounted their encounter. Principal Yaga, Professor Yeri, and the students listened with growing concern. A dimensional bridge? Professor Yeri's eyes gleamed with scientific curiosity despite the danger. The theoretical applications are fascinating, but the practical implications are terrifying. If this nexus can create pathways between dimensions, Principal Yaga observed gravely, then it could potentially access countless worlds, gathering power from each. Becoming unstoppable, Megumi concluded darkly. Not unstoppable, Goku countered with characteristic optimism. Just really, really tough. Yuji leaned forward eagerly. So what's the plan? How do we fight something that can adapt to whatever we throw at it? We hit it with everything at once, Nobara suggested. Overwhelm its adaptation ability. Professor Yeri shook her head. Based on the energy readings from the warehouse district, Nexus has absorbed enough cursed spirits to qualify as a disaster-level threat. Conventional attacks, even coordinated ones, would likely be ineffective. What about your domain expansion? Yuji asked Gojo. It couldn't adapt to that, right? Gojo tipped his head thoughtfully. Possibly. But Nexus has demonstrated spatial manipulation abilities similar to my own. A domain battle could have unpredictable consequences. There's something else, Goku interjected. When Nexus talked about the bridge, it mentioned that other dimensions contain answers. What if it's not just after power, but knowledge too? Professor Yeri's eyes widened. Multiversal information exchange, the implications are staggering. Forget implications, Nobara cut in practically. We have less than 24 hours before this thing decides diplomacy is over. We need action, not theories. Principal Yaga nodded firmly. Agreed. Professor, assemble a research team immediately. We need everything we can learn about Nexus's dimensional technology. He turned to Gojo. Gather our strongest available jujutsu sorcerers. If we must fight, we'll need coordinated tactics. What about me? Goku asked. I want to help, but if my energy is what Nexus needs. That makes you both our greatest asset and our greatest liability, Yaga replied bluntly. We need your power, but every time you use it around Nexus, you potentially make it stronger. Unless. Professor Yeri suddenly looked up from her tablet, eyes bright with inspiration. What if we could disrupt the energy absorption? Create a frequency mismatch between Son Goku's ki and Nexus's hybrid energy? Is that possible? Gojo asked. Theoretically. We'd need precise energy measurements from both entities, then develop a modulation technique to create destructive interference. She turned to Goku. It would require you to alter your ki projection in specific ways. Goku scratched his head. Sounds complicated, but I'm willing to try. My friend Whis has been teaching me ki control at the molecular level. Maybe some of that training could help. Perfect. Principal Yaga stood decisively. Professor, work with Son Goku on this energy disruption technique. Gojo, battle preparations. The rest of you, he looked at the students, continue your training. If this fails, you may be our last line of defense. As the meeting dispersed, Yuji caught up with Goku in the hallway. Hey, can I ask you something? Sure, what's up? Do you really think I could learn to use ki? Like, actually project it? Goku studied the young man thoughtfully. In just a few days, Yuji had shown remarkable progress, faster than any human Goku had trained before. There was something special about him, beyond just his connection to Sukuna. Yeah, I do, Goku answered honestly. You've got the right instincts, and you don't overthink things. Ki responds to intuition more than intellect. Yuji's face lit up. Then can we keep training tonight? I know everyone's busy with preparations, but... Tell you what, Goku offered with a grin. Help me with Professor Yeri's energy tests, and I'll show you a meditation technique that might speed up your progress. Deal. The laboratory hummed with activity as Professor Yeri conducted test after test, measuring Goku's ki output at various levels and frequencies. Yuji sat nearby, attempting to meditate as Goku had shown him, while occasionally opening one eye to watch the proceedings. Fascinating, the professor murmured, studying a holographic display of Goku's energy signature. The fundamental structure of ki is remarkably similar to cursed energy, but with inverse spiritual polarity. Is that good or bad? Goku asked, maintaining a steady flow of energy through his palm into the measuring device. Neither. Just informative. She adjusted several settings. Now, try pulsing your energy in the pattern I showed you. Goku concentrated, modulating his ki output in a complex rhythm. The display flickered, showing wave-like patterns that shifted and overlapped. Perfect. If we can get you to project this specific frequency during combat with Nexus, it should create destructive interference with its absorption ability. Like noise-canceling headphones? Yuji piped up from his meditation corner. Professor Yeri looked surprised, then nodded. Actually, yes. That's a perfect analogy. Sweet. Yuji pumped his fist. I said something smart. Goku laughed, then turned serious again. So this will stop Nexus from absorbing my energy, but what about attacking it? Will my techniques still work? They should, the professor confirmed. The modulation affects the absorption mechanics, not the destructive potential. A knock at the laboratory door interrupted them. Megumi entered, his expression more grave than usual. Problem, he announced without preamble. We're getting reports of coordinated curse attacks across Tokyo. Dozens of incidents, all following the same pattern. What pattern? Goku asked, already rising to his feet. They're targeting technology centers. Research facilities, telecommunications hubs, power stations. Megumi handed them a tablet showing a map with multiple red dots. And they all show signs of Nexus's influence, those same circuit patterns and hybrid energy signatures. Professor Yeri studied the map with growing alarm. They're creating a network. Extending Nexus's influence beyond the warehouse district. Like a power grid, Yuji suggested, joining them. Exactly like a power grid, the professor agreed. It's building infrastructure for something big. The dimensional bridge, most likely. We need to stop them, Goku decided. Disrupt the network before it's complete. Gojo-sensei is already coordinating countermeasures, Megumi informed them. But we're stretched thin. Too many sites, too few sorcerers. Goku's face lit up with sudden inspiration. What about dividing and conquering? I can use instant transmission to quickly move between locations, taking out the biggest threats while your teams handle the smaller ones. That could work, Professor Yeri nodded. But you'd be exposing yourself to multiple Nexus-influenced curses. Each encounter risks feeding them more of your energy. Not if we use that disruption technique we've been working on, Goku countered. It's worth the risk. Megumi studied him with newfound respect. I'll inform Gojo-sensei of the plan. The Tokyo skyline glittered with city lights as Goku materialized on top of a telecommunications tower. Below, a group of cursed spirits with Nexus's telltale circuit patterns were attaching themselves to satellite dishes and transmission equipment. Sorry to interrupt your technical work, Goku called down, catching their attention. But I'm going to have to shut this operation down. The curses responded immediately, abandoning their tasks to attack. Unlike normal cursed spirits, these moved with coordinated precision, clearly directed by some central intelligence. Goku focused, modulating his ki as Professor Yeri had taught him. A golden aura surrounded him, but with subtle pulsations that disrupted the normal flow patterns. When the first curse reached him, he struck with precision, driving his fist through its core. To his satisfaction, the creature dissipated normally instead of absorbing his energy. It works, he exclaimed, quickly dispatching the remaining curses with modulated energy attacks. After examining the equipment to ensure the curses hadn't completed whatever modifications they'd been making, Goku placed 2 fingers to his forehead, sensing for the next largest concentration of curse energy. Found you, he murmured, instantly teleporting across the city. For the next hour, Goku moved from site to site, disrupting Nexus's network operations. At each location, the pattern was the same, curses with hybrid abilities modifying technological infrastructure for some larger purpose. And at each site, his modulated ki techniques proved effective at preventing energy absorption. After clearing his 12th location, a research laboratory where curses had been accessing computer systems, Goku received a communication through the earpiece Jujutsu tech had provided. Son Goku, Gojo's voice crackled through. Status update. All clear on my end, Goku replied. Your disruption technique is working perfectly. The curses can't absorb my energy. Good. We've contained most of the smaller incursions as well. But there's a problem at Shinjuku substation. Massive energy readings, possibly Nexus itself or a direct proxy. On my way, Goku confirmed, focusing on the energy signature Gojo described. He materialized at the Shinjuku power substation, immediately sensing the difference from previous sites. The cursed energy here was dense, sophisticated, and pulsing with familiar hybrid patterns. The entire facility glowed with purple-gold light, transformers and equipment already half assimilated into organic-looking structures reminiscent of the warehouse. And at the center stood a figure, not Nexus itself, but clearly a direct extension. It resembled a humanoid composed of the same shadowy substance, but smaller, more focused. A specialized tool rather than the main entity. Countermeasures detected, the proxy announced upon seeing Goku. Source interference patterns identified. Yeah, figured out your little absorption trick, Goku replied, maintaining his energy modulation. Game's over. The proxy tilted its head, analyzing. Adaptation required. Without warning, it launched forward, moving faster than any of the previous curses. Goku dodged narrowly, feeling the air distort where the creature passed. Whoa! You're pretty quick, he acknowledged, countering with a sweeping kick that passed through the proxy's partially intangible form. The battle quickly intensified as the proxy demonstrated abilities far beyond normal cursed spirits. It could phase through solid matter, redirect energy attacks, and even briefly manipulate gravity in localized areas. You're a special one, huh? Goku observed, escalating his speed to match the creature. Created specifically to handle me? Correct, the proxy confirmed, its voice eerily similar to Nexus's. Specialized countermeasure unit. Despite its impressive abilities, the proxy still couldn't match Goku's combat experience. After a furious exchange of blows, Goku found a pattern in its movements, a predictability born from recently acquired knowledge rather than ingrained fighting instinct. You've got the moves, Goku acknowledged, slipping past the proxy's defenses, but not the experience to use them properly. With perfect timing, he drove a ki-enhanced strike directly through the proxy's core, disrupting its energy patterns. The creature convulsed, then collapsed into swirling mist that quickly dissipated. Goku examined the half-transformed substation, noting how the circuit patterns were already fading without the proxy to maintain them. One down, he murmured. His earpiece crackled again. Goku. Professor Yeri's voice came through urgently. Are you still at Shinjuku? Yeah, just finished here. Why? We're detecting a massive energy spike at the warehouse district. All the networked sites were just a diversion, Nexus has accelerated its timeline. Goku's expression hardened. I'm on my way. The warehouse district had transformed completely in the hours since Goku and Gojo's visit. What had been a single modified building was now an entire complex fused into one massive structure, pulsing with energy that distorted the very air around it. A spiral tower reached toward the night sky, where clouds swirled in unnatural patterns directly above. Goku materialized at the perimeter, immediately joined by Gojo and several other Jujutsu sorcerers who had arrived ahead of him. Quite the remodeling job, Gojo remarked, his casual tone belied by the tension in his stance. Our interference with the network seems to have triggered a contingency plan. It's accelerating the bridge construction, Goku observed, sensing the massive energy buildup. Using whatever resources it already gathered. Principal Yaga approached, accompanied by Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara. Reports indicate spatial distortions forming throughout the structure. Professor Yeri believes Nexus is attempting to force open a dimensional rift. To my world? Goku asked. Or something worse, Yaga replied grimly. The energy patterns suggest multiple dimensional vectors, not just a single connection point. Yuji stepped forward, determination written across his face. So what's the plan? We can't just let it tear open reality. Direct confrontation, Gojo decided. Nexus has overextended itself with this acceleration. The energy requirements must be enormous. Meaning it's vulnerable, Megumi concluded. Goku nodded in agreement. We need to strike at the core, wherever Nexus itself is controlling this from. My domain could potentially disrupt the entire structure, Gojo suggested. Too risky, Yaga countered. If your domain interacts unpredictably with the dimensional distortions, it could catastrophically destabilize the entire process. As they debated strategy, the sky above darkened further, energy crackling between clouds and patterns resembling Nexus's circuit markings. We're out of time, Nobara pointed out bluntly. Look! At the top of the spiral tower, space itself began to tear, a jagged black rift appearing in midair, edges glowing with hybrid energy. The bridge is opening, Goku realized. I can feel something from the other side. Not my world, but somewhere else. Without further hesitation, Gojo took command. 3 teams. Yuji, Megumi, Nobara, secure the perimeter, keep any escaping curses contained. Second team with me, we'll work our way up through the structure, disrupting energy conduits. Son Goku, I'm going straight for Nexus, Goku finished. I can sense it at the base of the tower, directing everything. Can you handle it alone? Yaga asked, concerned. Goku's expression turned serious. Guess we'll find out. With that, he flared his ki, the golden aura surrounding him pulsing with the disruption pattern Professor Yeri had designed. Remember, whatever happens, don't let anything come through that rift. Without waiting for a response, Goku launched himself toward the transformed warehouse complex, flying directly toward where he sensed Nexus's core energy signature. The exterior walls offered no resistance, they seemed to flow around him, attempting to capture rather than block. Goku maintained his momentum, blasting through layer after layer of the organic mechanical structure. Inside was a maze of pulsing conduits, chambers filled with swirling energy, and curses fused into the very architecture. Everything served a purpose in Nexus's grand design, every element precisely placed. Impressive setup, Goku muttered to himself, navigating the twisted corridors. Reminds me of inside Majin Buu, but with better lighting. He encountered resistance, specialized proxies similar to the one at the substation, but lacking its refined capabilities. These were rushed creations, sacrificing quality for quantity. Goku dispatched them efficiently, maintaining his energy modulation to prevent absorption. Finally, he reached the central chamber, a massive spherical space at the base of the spiral tower. Energy conduits converged here from all directions, feeding into a hovering figure at the chamber's center. Nexus had evolved again. Its form was now almost completely humanoid, but with an unsettling perfection, like a sculpture come to life. The circuit patterns covered its surface in intricate designs that pulsed with power. Around it, reality itself seemed slightly distorted, as if the entity existed partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Source arrives, Nexus acknowledged without turning. As predicted. You knew I'd come, Goku replied, hovering at the chamber entrance. Probability near certainty. Your behavioral patterns are consistent. Nexus finally turned, revealing a face that had become eerily human-like, though still formed of the same shadowy substance. Energy disruption technique noted. Clever adaptation. Thanks. Your dimensional bridge is pretty impressive too, Goku replied conversationally, buying time to analyze the situation. But I can't let you finish it. Already complete, Nexus corrected, gesturing upward. Initial phase active. Connecting to nearest compatible dimension first. Goku sensed the truth in this statement. Above them, the rift was stabilizing, connecting to somewhere. Not his world, but not this one either. What exactly are you trying to accomplish? Goku asked, genuinely curious despite the circumstances. You keep talking about evolution and becoming complete. What does that mean? Nexus seemed almost pleased by the question. Understanding sought. Acceptable. It spread its arms, the chamber responding by displaying holographic-like images of multiple dimensions. Reality fragmented. Divided into separate universes, each with unique energy signatures, laws, beings. Yeah, I know about the multiverse. We have 12 universes where I come from. Limited perspective, Nexus countered. Those 12, mere subset of larger whole. Beyond them, infinite dimensions. Infinite potential. The images shifted, showing countless worlds, some recognizable, others completely alien. All separated by artificial barriers. Inefficient. Wasteful. Goku began to understand. You want to connect them all. Create passages between dimensions. First step, Nexus confirmed. Connection. Then integration. Finally, unification. The implication sent a chill through Goku. You're not just building bridges. You're trying to merge dimensions. Correct. Beginning with compatible energy systems. Your world. This world. Others with similar fundamental structures. Nexus gestured, and the images coalesced into a single, unified reality. One perfect whole. Maximum efficiency. Maximum evolution. And what happens to the people in all these dimensions during this unification? Goku asked, though he suspected the answer. Most survive. Adapt. Evolve. Nexus's tone remained matter-of-fact. Some cannot adapt. Regrettable but necessary sacrifice for greater whole. Yeah, that's what I thought. Goku's aura intensified, the disruption pattern becoming more pronounced. I've heard this kind of talk before. Bad guys always think wiping out billions is justified for their greater good. Not destruction. Transformation, Nexus corrected. You could assist. Guide adaptation. Minimize suffering. Not interested. Goku dropped into a fighting stance. I'm shutting this down. Now. Nexus studied him for a moment, then nodded as if accepting an inevitable conclusion. Conflict unavoidable. We'll proceed. Without further warning, Nexus attacked, not with physical strikes, but by manipulating the chamber itself. The entire room seemed to come alive, walls flowing like liquid, floor rippling with energy spikes, ceiling contracting to crush Goku. Goku responded with explosive force, his ki creating a protective sphere that pushed back against the chamber's assault. Nice trick. But I've fought beings who could destroy planets with a finger flick. You'll need to do better. Adaptation continuing, Nexus replied calmly. The battle escalated rapidly. Nexus demonstrated mastery of its environment, using the entire structure as a weapon while simultaneously attacking with increasingly sophisticated energy techniques, some mimicking ki blasts, others resembling cursed techniques Goku had seen from Jujutsu tech sorcerers. Goku countered with speed, power, and battle instinct honed through countless fights. He maintained the disruption pattern in his energy, preventing Nexus from directly absorbing his attacks, forcing the entity to rely on evasion rather than assimilation. You're strong, Goku acknowledged after a particularly intense exchange left both combatants reassessing. Probably the strongest thing in this world. But you're still learning. Still evolving. You haven't reached your full potential. Assessment accurate, Nexus agreed, surprising Goku with its candor. Current form transitional. Bridge will accelerate final evolution. Above them, the dimensional rift pulsed with increasing stability. Goku sensed something beginning to emerge, not physical objects, but energy patterns, information, flowing into Nexus's structure. Time to end this, Goku decided. With a sharp yell, his aura exploded outward as he transformed into Super Saiyan, golden light filling the chamber. Let's see how you handle a little more power. Nexus showed the first signs of concern, its form rippling with what might have been alarm. Power increase unexpected. Disruption pattern maintained despite transformation. Professor Yeri knows her stuff, Goku replied with a grin. And I've had plenty of practice controlling my energy in different forms. The Super Saiyan transformation changed the dynamic of the battle immediately. Goku's speed and power multiplied exponentially, allowing him to overwhelm Nexus's defenses. Each strike landed with devastating impact, disrupting the entity's cohesion and forcing it to expend enormous energy to maintain its form. Nexus adapted rapidly, shifting its strategy from direct confrontation to spatial manipulation. It created pocket dimensions within the chamber, attempting to trap or disorient Goku by constantly changing the battlefield's geometry. Interesting technique, Goku commented, navigating the shifting spaces with practiced ease. Reminds me of the hyperbolic time chamber, but less stable. Despite Nexus's adaptations, the battle's momentum had clearly shifted in Goku's favor. The entity began diverting energy from the bridge to sustain its defenses, causing the dimensional rift above to fluctuate. Outside the structure, Gojo's team had made significant progress disrupting the energy conduits, further destabilizing the bridge. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara successfully contained the perimeter, preventing curse reinforcements from reaching the central tower. It's working. Yuji shouted over the tactical communicator. The weird light show is starting to fade. Inside the chamber, Nexus made a desperate decision. It suddenly abandoned all defensive measures, instead channeling every ounce of available energy into the dimensional bridge. What are you? Goku began, then realized the entity's intention. No. The rift above expanded dramatically, tearing open wider as Nexus forced the connection beyond its designed parameters. Through the widened gap, Goku sensed a familiar energy signature, not his exact universe, but one with similar fundamental properties. Alternative strategy initiated, Nexus announced, its form becoming increasingly unstable as it poured energy into the rift. If direct evolution denied, we'll seed other dimensions with pattern. Continuity ensured. You're trying to send parts of yourself through the rift. Goku realized. Spread your consciousness across dimensions. Correct. Adaptation successful. Nexus's body began breaking apart, streams of its essence flowing upward toward the rift. Evolution continues. Different path. Same destination. Goku instantly understood the danger. If even fragments of Nexus escaped to other dimensions, they could potentially grow, evolve, and repeat the process, creating a multiversal infection. Not happening. With explosive speed, Goku launched himself upward, intercepting the streams of essence before they could reach the rift. Using his modulated ki as a barrier, he forced the fragments back, containing them within the chamber. Nexus fought desperately, its remaining form attacking while its fragments sought escape. The entire structure began to destabilize as the conflicting energies, Nexus's dimensional manipulation, Goku's Super Saiyan Ki, and the bridge's own unstable power, created a cascade of reactions. The whole place is coming apart. Goku heard Nobara shout through his communicator. Everyone needs to evacuate. Not yet, Goku replied grimly. If any part of Nexus escapes through that rift, we'll have a much bigger problem. He realized what needed to be done. With Nexus's essence contained but still active, and the bridge unstable but functional, there was only one solution. Everyone clear the area, he commanded through the communicator. Get as far away as possible. What are you planning? Gojo's voice came through, immediately understanding something significant was about to happen. Something dramatic, Goku replied with grim humor. Trust me on this one. As the Jujutsu tech forces retreated from the collapsing structure, Goku gathered his energy. The golden aura of Super Saiyan intensified, then shifted, electricity beginning to crackle around his body as he pushed beyond into Super Saiyan 2. This form burns through energy much faster, he told Nexus, whose fragmented essence still struggled against his containment. Which means I can't maintain the disruption pattern perfectly. You'll be able to absorb some of my power. Nexus paused, clearly confused by this tactical revelation. That's what you wanted, right? Goku continued. My energy to complete your evolution. Well, here it comes, but not how you planned. With a primal yell, Goku released his power, not in a focused attack, but as raw, overwhelming energy that filled the chamber completely. However, this was not standard ki projection. Following Professor Yeri's theories, Goku deliberately created unstable energy patterns, impossible to fully absorb or integrate. Nexus's essence eagerly consumed the energy, exactly as Goku intended. But instead of empowering the entity, the unstable ki patterns created destructive resonance within its structure. Instability detected, Nexus's voice fragmented as its being began to break down at the fundamental level. Reconfiguration impossible. Pattern corruption spreading. That's the idea, Goku confirmed, continuing to pour unstable energy into the chamber. You can't evolve if your basic structure is compromised. The dimensional bridge above began collapsing inward, the rift closing as its power source destabilized. Nexus's remaining consciousness fought desperately to maintain cohesion, but the corruption spread too quickly. Evolution will continue, Nexus insisted, its voice fading. Pattern survives. Not this time, Goku countered, gathering the last of his power for a final push. Ka. Me. Ha. Me. The blue energy sphere formed between his hands, but unlike his normal technique, this Kamehameha contained the same unstable, corrupting patterns as his aura. HAA. The beam struck the remaining core of Nexus's essence, overwhelming its ability to adapt. The entity's fragmented consciousness shattered under the assault, breaking down into increasingly disordered energy patterns that could no longer maintain cohesion. With Nexus's controlling intelligence destroyed, the entire structure began to collapse rapidly. The dimensional bridge imploded, the rift sealing itself as the supporting framework disintegrated. Goku, his energy nearly exhausted from the intense output, used the last of his strength to fly upward through the collapsing tower. And out into the night sky. Behind him, the massive structure folded in on itself, dimensional energies turning inward and consuming what remained. The Scion warrior managed to clear the immediate area before his transformation gave out, reverting to base form as he descended unsteadily to where the Jujutsu Tech forces had regrouped at a safe distance. That, Gojo remarked as Goku landed beside him, was impressively destructive. Thanks, Goku replied, breathing heavily. I try. They watched as the last of Nexus's creation disappeared in a final flash of hybrid energy, leaving nothing but a smoking crater where the warehouse district had once stood. Is it dead? Yuji asked, joining them. Goku closed his eyes, reaching out with his senses. The energy pattern is gone. Whatever Nexus was, the controlling intelligence, the evolution drive, it's been completely destabilized. You corrupted its fundamental structure, Professor Yeri observed, scanning the area with her instruments. Ingenious application of the disruption theory. Just figured if it wanted my energy so badly, I'd give it more than it could handle, Goku explained with typical modesty. As the immediate danger passed, the reality of their situation reasserted itself. The dimensional bridge was destroyed, along with any immediate hope of sending Goku back to his own universe. Yuji voiced what everyone was thinking. So, does this mean you're stuck here now? Goku looked thoughtful rather than disappointed. Maybe not forever. That rift showed there are connections between dimensions. With the right research, the right techniques. He shrugged. I've been in tougher spots. Jujutsu Tech will continue investigating dimensional travel possibilities, Principal Yaga assured him. Professor Yeri has already gathered valuable data from tonight's events. In the meantime, Gojo added with his characteristic smile, I believe we were in the middle of some rather promising training exchanges. Your energy disruption technique gives me several ideas for jujutsu applications. Goku's face brightened. And I still need to show Yuji how to properly form a ki blast. He was getting close yesterday. As they made their way back toward Jujutsu Tech, exhausted but victorious, Goku found himself surprisingly content despite being stranded in a strange world. He missed his family and friends, of course, but there was something to be said for new challenges, new techniques to learn, new friends to train with. And if Nexus had proven anything, it was that the boundaries between worlds were more permeable than anyone had realized. One way or another, he would find his way home eventually. Until then, there were curses to fight and students to teach. Not a bad way to spend some unexpected dimensional tourism. What none of them noticed, as they departed the destruction site, was a tiny fragment of energy, neither curse nor key, but something in between, quietly slipping away through a crack in reality barely larger than a subatomic particle. Evolution, after all, found a way. Chapter 3, Beyond Dimensions. 3 weeks after Nexus's apparent destruction, Yuji Itadori sat cross-legged in the center of Jujutsu Tech's training grounds, eyes closed, breathing steady. Dawn light filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across his concentrated face. Around him, the morning air hung perfectly still. Focus on the center, Goku instructed, seated opposite him. Not just inside your body, but the core of your being. Ki flows from there, like water from a spring. Yuji's brow furrowed slightly. I can feel something, but it's different from cursed energy. Less angry. That's it. Goku encouraged. Cursed energy comes from negative emotions, but Ki is just life itself. Neutral until you shape it with intention. For weeks, they'd been at this daily ritual. Goku had integrated himself fully into Jujutsu Tech's routine, dividing his time between helping research dimensional travel possibilities and training the students in key fundamentals. Yuji had shown the most aptitude by far, his natural physical abilities and open-minded approach making him uniquely suited to crossing the boundaries between energy systems. Now try to bring it forward, Goku continued. Not with force, but with invitation. Like calling a friend. Yuji's hands shifted slightly, palms facing upward in his lap. His face relaxed as he followed Goku's instructions, reaching for that unfamiliar warmth he'd been cultivating for weeks. Something sparked, literally. A tiny mote of golden light winked into existence above Yuji's palm, hovering uncertainly for 3 seconds before vanishing. Yuji's eyes snapped open. Did you see that? Goku's face split into a massive grin. I sure did. That was pure ki, Yuji. No cursed energy mixed in. The young Jujutsu sorcerer leaped to his feet, pumping his fist in the air. Yes. Finally. He attempted an impromptu victory dance that looked more like someone stepping on hot coals. 3 weeks of getting nowhere, and then, boom. Ki ball. Well, ki spark, Goku corrected with a laugh. But still impressive. Most humans take months to manifest visible ki. From the edge of the training ground, Megumi watched with arms crossed, his perpetual frown slightly less severe than usual. So he managed to create a tiny light. How exactly is that useful against curses? Jealous much? Nobara teased, elbowing him. She'd been watching the training session while polishing her hammer. Admit it, you're annoyed you can't do it yet. I'm focused on refining my Shikigami techniques, Megumi replied stiffly. Not chasing new powers. Goku approached them with Yuji bouncing excitedly at his side. Everyone learns differently. Megumi, your precision with cursed energy is exceptional. You've incorporated some of my movement techniques into your combat style, which is just as valuable. And I've definitely improved my hammer swing using your weight distribution tips, Nobara added, demonstrating a modified stance. Broke through a special grade shell yesterday with 1 hit. See? We're all getting stronger in different ways, Goku said cheerfully. That's the best part of cross-training. The weeks following Nexus's defeat had been surprisingly peaceful. Curse activity had returned to relatively normal levels, giving everyone time to recover and train. For Goku, it had been a welcome period of adaptation to this strange world, though he still missed his family and friends. Anyway, breakfast time. Goku declared, his stomach punctuating the statement with a rumble that sounded like distant thunder. Can't train on an empty stomach. You can't do anything on an empty stomach, Yuji laughed. And somehow you're never full. Saiyan metabolism, Goku replied with a shrug. Burns energy fast, especially after training. As they headed toward the dining hall, Gojo approached from the administrative building, his usual carefree demeanor firmly in place despite the early hour. Morning training session bearing fruit, he asked, falling into step beside them. Yuji made his first key ball. Goku reported proudly. Spark, Yuji corrected with a sheepish grin. Barely visible and gone in seconds. Still progress. Gojo nodded approvingly. The research team would like your presence after breakfast, Sun-kun. Professor Yeri believes she's found something interesting in the dimensional data. Goku perked up immediately. About getting me home? Possibly. She was being cryptic, as scientists often are when they're excited. Gojo's hidden eyes seemed to study Goku's reaction. Would you be disappointed to leave so soon? You've become quite the popular instructor around here. The question caught Goku off guard. He'd been so focused on finding a way home that he hadn't fully considered how attached he'd grown to this place and its people. I miss my family, he answered honestly. But I've really enjoyed teaching here. Everyone's been great, especially these guys. He gestured toward the students with genuine affection. Perhaps we can arrange interdimensional visiting rights, Gojo suggested lightly. Weekend training sessions across realities. That would be awesome. Yuji exclaimed. Imagine training in Goku's world where they have those gravity rooms and stuff. The conversation continued cheerfully as they reached the dining hall, where the kitchen staff had learned to prepare what they now called the Goku Special, essentially quadruple portions of everything on the menu. As they ate, Goku noticed a subtle tension in Gojo's posture despite his casual conversation. Years of combat had made Goku sensitive to such details, the slightly too perfect posture, the controlled breathing, the occasional glance toward the windows. Everything okay? Goku asked quietly when the students became engaged in their own conversation. Gojo's perpetual smile remained, but his voice lowered. Probably nothing. Some unusual curse activity patterns emerging in the past 48 hours. Different from normal surges. Different how? Coordinated. Purposeful. Gojo sipped his tea casually. Reminiscent of the patterns we saw with Nexus, but on a much smaller scale. A chill ran down Goku's spine despite his optimism. You think something survived? I think we should be thorough in our investigation, Gojo replied carefully. No need to worry the students yet. They've earned their peace. Goku nodded, understanding the sentiment. After finishing his enormous breakfast, to the continued amazement of everyone present, he headed to Professor Yeri's laboratory while the students went to their regular jujutsu classes. Professor Yeri's lab had expanded significantly over the past weeks, now occupying an entire wing of Jujutsu Tech's research building. New equipment hummed alongside complex arrays of cursed tools, all focused on studying the dimensional anomalies created during the Nexus incident. Ah, Son Goku, the professor greeted him enthusiastically. Perfect timing. We've made a breakthrough in our analysis. Something about getting me home? Goku asked hopefully. Yes and no. She gestured toward a holographic display showing multiple energy wavelengths. We've confirmed that dimensional travel is theoretically possible using a combination of cursed techniques and properly modulated ki. The residual energy from the Nexus bridge provided the missing piece of the equation. That's great news. In principle, yes, she agreed, adjusting her glasses. However, the energy requirements are substantial. We'd need something approaching your full power as a Super Saiyan, focused through specialized cursed tools, to create even a temporary passage. Goku considered this. So I could potentially go home, but it would be a one-way trip. I couldn't come back. Precisely. At least, not without similar apparatus on your side to create a return passage. The professor looked apologetic. And we have no way to send the necessary information to your dimension ahead of time. I see. Goku's expression remained thoughtful rather than disappointed. What about sending a message first? Something small? Professor Yeri brightened. That's actually our second breakthrough. Small-scale transmissions require significantly less energy. We believe we could send a message, information only, not physical matter, with a focused burst from your base form. So I could let my family know I'm okay. Maybe even coordinate with Bulma to build a receiver on that side. Theoretically, yes. The professor pulled up another display showing a device under construction. We're building a dimensional transmitter now. With your energy to power it and a clear image of your destination in mind, we should be able to establish brief contact within a few days. Goku's face broke into a wide smile. That's fantastic news. Bulma's a genius with technology. If anyone can figure out how to build a receiver, it's her. There's one more thing, Professor Yeri added, her tone becoming more serious. During our analysis of the dimensional residue from Nexus, we detected anomalies. What kind of anomalies? She pulled up another display showing energy patterns Goku recognized immediately, the distinctive hybrid signature of Nexus's power. Trace amounts of the entity's energy pattern have been detected at multiple locations around Tokyo, she explained. Initially too small to register on our instruments, but growing steadily over the past week. Gojo mentioned unusual curse activity, Goku recalled. You think Nexus survived somehow? Not in its original form, she clarified. But remember how it attempted to fragment itself during the final battle? It's possible a tiny portion escaped, a seed containing the basic pattern, but lacking the power or consciousness of the main entity. Goku frowned. And now it's growing again. Very slowly, and in a dispersed pattern rather than concentrating in one location. She pointed to a map showing dozens of tiny energy signatures scattered across Tokyo. It appears to be taking a more cautious approach this time. Learning from mistakes, Goku murmured. That was always what made Nexus dangerous, its ability to adapt. Precisely why we're monitoring the situation closely. If these fragments continue to grow and eventually reconnect. She left the implication hanging. We could face an even more evolved version of Nexus, Goku finished. One that knows all our previous tactics. The good news is we have time, Professor Yeri assured him. Current growth patterns suggest it would take weeks, possibly months, before these fragments constitute a significant threat. Goku nodded, processing this information alongside the possibility of contacting home. We should tell Gojo and Principal Yaga. Set up a monitoring system for these energy signatures. Already done, she confirmed. Every Jujutsu sorcerer on assignment has been equipped with detection tools calibrated to Nexus's specific pattern. Good. Goku's expression turned determined. Let's focus on getting that transmitter working. If there's a chance Nexus might return, I definitely need to let my family know what's happening. At the outskirts of Tokyo, in an abandoned subway tunnel long removed from official maps, something stirred in the darkness. A small pool of shadow with faint golden-purple circuitry patterns pulsed rhythmically, gradually expanding as it absorbed ambient cursed energy from its surroundings. This fragment, one of dozens scattered throughout the city, contained the basic template of what had once been Nexus. Not a consciousness yet, merely an instinctive drive to survive, grow, and eventually reconnect with its other parts. The fragment paused its expansion as a low-grade curse wandered into the tunnel, a formless mass of negative energy drawn by the unusual signature. The fragment remained still, allowing the curse to approach, investigate, and finally attempt to consume what it perceived as a strange but potentially nourishing energy source. The moment the curse made contact, the fragment's circuitry patterns flared. Rather than being consumed, the fragment rapidly expanded, engulfing the curse and restructuring its energy according to the Nexus pattern. Where one fragment had pulsed before, a significantly larger mass now resided, the absorbed curse's power integrated perfectly into the evolving structure. Still not conscious, not yet, but growing more complex by the minute. Throughout Tokyo, in dark, forgotten places, this scene repeated itself dozens of times. Fragments waiting, luring, absorbing, growing. Each maintaining a low profile, each avoiding detection by keeping its power signature just below the threshold of standard curse detection. Patient. Adaptive. Evolving. Back at Jujutsu Tech, Goku supervised afternoon training with the first-year students, his attention split between their progress and the morning's revelations. The possibility of contacting home filled him with hope, but the potential return of Nexus tempered his enthusiasm with caution. "You're distracted today, Goku-sensei," Maki Zenin observed, breaking his reverie. Unlike most Zenin family members, Maki possessed no cursed energy, making her particularly interested in Goku's key training as an alternative power source. "Sorry," Goku replied with a sheepish grin. "Just got some big news from the research team." "They found a way to send you home?" she asked perceptively. "Maybe." He watched Toji Inumaki practicing the modified fighting stance Goku had taught him. "They think we can at least establish communication soon." "The students will miss you," Maki said matter-of-factly. "You've brought something different to the training." "I'm not leaving just yet," Goku assured her. "Especially with these new curse activity patterns emerging." Maki's expression sharpened. "You think there's trouble coming?" It wasn't a question, and Goku didn't treat it as one. "Maybe. Just a feeling for now." They continued the training session, Goku correcting stances and offering encouragement as the students practiced combining traditional jujitsu techniques with the physical fundamentals he'd been teaching. Later that afternoon, as the sun began to set, Goku found himself on the roof of the main building, a spot he'd claimed for private meditation. The city sprawled before him, lights beginning to twinkle as darkness fell. He closed his eyes, extending his senses outward. After weeks in this world, he'd grown more attuned to its unique energy patterns, better able to distinguish between normal human ki, cursed energy, and the faint hybrid signature that might indicate Nexus's presence. For a long time, he detected nothing unusual, just the expected energy signatures of millions of humans going about their lives, punctuated by occasional flares of cursed energy where spirits manifested. Then, just as he was about to end his meditation, something flickered at the edge of his perception. Not one signature, but many, tiny, almost imperceptible points of hybrid energy, widely dispersed but unmistakably connected by a similar pattern. Goku's eyes snapped open. "It's definitely alive," he murmured to himself. "And it's everywhere." The roof access door opened behind him, and Gojo stepped out, somehow knowing exactly where to find him. "Sensing our potential problem?" Gojo asked, joining Goku at the edge of the roof. "Yeah. It's faint, but growing." Goku frowned. Different strategy this time. Instead of one central mass, it's spreading thin, developing multiple small points. "Harder to target," Gojo observed. "If we destroy one fragment, the others continue growing." "Exactly. And they're positioned throughout the city, in places hard to reach without collateral damage." Goku turned to face the Jujutsu sorcerer. "It's playing the long game. The question is, what's its objective this time? Another dimensional bridge? Maybe." Goku looked back over the city thoughtfully. "But I think it might be something else. Something bigger." Gojo raised an eyebrow above his blindfold. "Bigger than merging dimensions?" "Just a feeling." Goku couldn't articulate the intuition, but years of facing increasingly powerful enemies had given him a sixth sense for escalating threats. "Last time, Nexus was rushed, excited by discovering my energy, eager to evolve quickly. This time, it's patient, methodical. Which means it's learned." Gojo's voice remained light, but Goku could sense the tension beneath. A learning curse with distributed consciousness and dimensional manipulation abilities. Even by special grade standards, that's unprecedented. We need more information, Goku decided. Track these fragments, figure out their growth patterns, predict when they might try to reconnect. I'll assign teams to monitor the largest signatures, Gojo agreed. Discreetly, to avoid triggering premature action. And I'll work with Professor Yeri to finish that transmitter, Goku added. If things get bad, I want my family to know what happened to me. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the city lights, each contemplating the challenges ahead. Despite the potential danger, Goku felt a familiar stirring of excitement, the Saiyan warrior spirit responding to a worthy challenge. You know, Gojo said eventually, most people would be terrified facing an interdimensional threat while stranded in a strange world. Goku laughed. Guess I'm not most people. Besides, I've got good allies here. That you do, son Goku, Gojo replied with his enigmatic smile. That you do. Days passed with methodical preparation on both fronts. Professor Yeri's team worked around the clock on the dimensional transmitter, while Jujutsu tech sorcerers quietly monitored the growing Nexus fragments throughout Tokyo. In the training halls, Goku intensified the students' preparation, focusing particularly on Yuji's developing key abilities. The young sorcerer made remarkable progress, moving from momentary sparks to sustained energy manifestation in less than a week. I've never seen anything like it, Goku remarked to Principal Yaga as they observed a training session. Yuji's picking this up faster than anyone I've ever taught. Itadori has always been exceptional, Yaga replied, watching as Yuji successfully maintained a small key sphere above his palm for nearly 30 seconds. His physical abilities were extraordinary even before joining Jujutsu Tech, and housing Sukuna seems to have enhanced his capacity for energy manipulation. It's more than that, Goku observed thoughtfully. Most people approach ki and cursed energy as completely separate systems, but Yuji doesn't see that division. To him, they're just different tools for the same purpose. On the training floor, Yuji attempted something new, channeling both energies simultaneously. His right hand held a sphere of golden ki while his left manifested the dark, ominous aura of cursed energy. With intense concentration, he brought his hands together, allowing the energies to meet. The resulting reaction sent him flying backward, landing hard on the training mats. Ow! Okay, not ready for that yet, Yuji groaned, sitting up and rubbing his head. Not bad though. Goku encouraged, helping him up. You almost had it. The energies didn't immediately repel each other. They wanted to mix, Yuji said, sounding surprised. I could feel them trying to combine, not just fight each other. Goku's expression turned thoughtful. Interesting. Maybe that's what Nexus was trying to achieve, a perfect integration of both energy systems. But for what purpose? Yaga wondered. Power, obviously, Megumi interjected, having observed the training from nearby. Combining two fundamental energy systems would create something beyond either one alone. Maybe, Goku acknowledged. But there might be more to it than just raw power. Energy systems define how reality works in their respective dimensions. Combining them could potentially rewrite the rules of both worlds. The implication hung heavy in the air, lending new urgency to their preparations. On the 7th day after discovering Nexus's fragments, Professor Yeri summoned Goku to her laboratory, excitement evident in her usually composed demeanor. The transmitter is ready for testing, she announced as soon as he entered. We've calibrated it to your specific key signature and incorporated elements from the residual dimensional energy from the Nexus incident. The device itself looked surprisingly simple, a circular platform surrounded by instruments, with a focal point at its center where Goku would presumably direct his energy. How does it work? He asked, examining the apparatus with interest. In essence, it creates a momentary pinprick between dimensions, she explained. Not large enough for physical transport, but sufficient for information transfer, specifically, a targeted broadcast along the unique frequency of your home dimension. And I just need to focus on home while channeling ki. Precisely. The more specific your mental image, the more accurately we can target the transmission. She handed him a small object resembling a microphone. This will convert your voice into encoded energy patterns that can traverse the dimensional barrier. Goku took a deep breath, excitement building at the prospect of contacting his family after weeks of separation. "Ready when you are," he told the professor. She nodded, activating the equipment. Lights flared around the circular platform, and a humming filled the air as the instruments came to life. "Step onto the platform and channel your energy toward the focal point," she instructed. "Start slowly, then increase gradually as the connection stabilizes." Goku followed her directions, taking position and beginning to channel his ki. Golden energy flowed from his body toward the central point, where instruments immediately began processing and reshaping it into complex patterns. "Think of your destination," Professor Yeri reminded him. "The more specific, the better." Goku closed his eyes, focusing on Capsule Corp, the most likely place to find both his family and someone with the technical expertise to understand a cross-dimensional message. He pictured the distinctive dome-shaped buildings, Bulma's laboratory, the specific energy signatures of his friends and family. The humming intensified as instruments locked onto these mental coordinates. A small point of light appeared above the focal point, gradually expanding into what looked like a miniature dimensional rift, not black like Nexus's bridge, but shimmering with golden energy. "Connection establishing," Professor Yeri reported, monitoring readings. "Remarkable stability for a first attempt. When the light turns green, begin your transmission." Seconds later, an indicator flashed green. Goku raised the microphone device, hope surging through him. "Hello? Bulma? Gohan? Chi-Chi? Anyone there? This is Goku, can you hear me?" He paused, uncertain if the transmission was working. "I'm alive and okay, just stuck in another dimension. If you're receiving this, I need your help to get home." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, through a storm of static and distortion, a familiar voice broke through. "Goku? Is that really you?" Bulma's voice, faint but unmistakable. "Where have you?" Static, looking everywhere. "Bulma!" Goku exclaimed, relief washing over him. "Yes, it's me. I'm in another dimension, got pulled through some kind of portal during training with Whis." More static, then, signal is weak, crackling, trying to lock onto your coordinates. "Professor, can we strengthen the connection?" Goku asked urgently. "More power," she confirmed. "But carefully, too much could destabilize the pinpoint rift." Goku nodded, gradually increasing his energy output while maintaining precise control. The rift stabilized, growing slightly larger as Bulma's voice came through more clearly. "That's better," she exclaimed. "Goku, we've been worried sick. Whis felt the dimensional disturbance but couldn't track where you went. We've been trying to find you for weeks." "I'm okay," Goku assured her. "I'm in a dimension with humans who fight spirits called curses. They're helping me find a way home, but we need your help on that side." "Tell me what you need," Bulma replied immediately, her scientific mind engaging with the problem. For the next few minutes, Goku relayed Professor Yeri's technical specifications for a receiver that could establish a more stable connection. Bulma asked precise questions, clearly already formulating plans for construction. "I think I can build this," she confirmed eventually. "Give me 3 days to gather the components and set it up." "There's something else," Goku added, his tone growing serious. "There's an entity here, a curse called Nexus, that's trying to bridge dimensions. It's dangerous, Bulma. If it succeeds, both our worlds could be at risk." A pause, then, "How bad are we talking? Cell bad? Bu bad?" "Maybe worse," Goku admitted. "It adapts, evolves, learns from every encounter. And it's specifically interested in accessing our dimension to absorb more powerful energy sources." "Got it. I'll alert the others, have everyone on standby." Determination filled Bulma's voice. 3 days, Goku. Keep this frequency open if you can, and we'll establish a better connection then. The rift is becoming unstable, Professor Yeri warned, monitoring fluctuating readings. We need to end transmission soon. Bulma, we have to go. Goku said quickly. Tell everyone I'm okay and I'm working on getting home. Will do. Stay safe, Goku. Wheel, static, ready on this end. The connection wavered, then collapsed as the miniature rift closed with a soft flash. Goku lowered his arms, a mix of emotions washing over him, relief at contacting home, hope for a potential return, concern about the continuing Nexus threat. Remarkable success for a first attempt, Professor Yeri commented, already analyzing the data. With these readings, we can refine the transmitter for a more stable connection in 3 days. And with Bulma working on the other side, we might actually pull this off, Goku added optimistically. She's built interdimensional communicators before, though usually just between our universe's realms, not separate dimensions entirely. The implications for Jujutsu research are extraordinary, the professor mused. Controlled communication between dimensions could revolutionize our understanding of cursed energy's origins. Let's focus on the immediate applications first, Goku suggested gently. Like stopping Nexus and getting me home. Of course. She nodded, returning to practical matters. We'll need to conserve specialized materials for the next transmission. And we should brief Principal Yaga on these developments immediately. As they left the laboratory, Goku couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. For the first time since arriving in this world, a clear path home had emerged. Yet mixed with that hope was a growing certainty that Nexus represented a threat he couldn't simply leave behind. One way or another, he would need to resolve that threat before returning home. The question was whether he had enough time before Nexus completed whatever it was planning. Deep beneath Tokyo's financial district, in maintenance tunnels rarely visited by human workers, the largest Nexus fragment pulsed with increasing complexity. Unlike its smaller counterparts throughout the city, this fragment had grown more rapidly, absorbing several low-grade curses to fuel its development. The mass now resembled a small pool of shadow approximately 2 meters across, its surface rippling with golden-purple circuit patterns that had become the entity's signature. At its center, something new was forming, a rudimentary neural structure, the beginnings of reconnected consciousness. Nearby, a maintenance worker making routine checks rounded a corner and froze at the sight of the unusual phenomenon. His flashlight beam played across the pulsing surface, triggering an immediate response. The fragment rippled, a tendril extending toward the human with lightning speed. Before the man could react, the tendril made contact with his forehead. Rather than attacking physically, it established a brief connection, a flash of information transfer. The man's eyes widened as his mind filled with alien concepts, mathematical formulas, spatial geometries beyond human comprehension. Then the tendril withdrew, leaving the man standing unharmed but fundamentally changed. His expression shifted from fear to blank acceptance as new pathways formed in his brain, the beginning of a connection to Nexus's distributed network. Observe. Report. Do not interfere, a voice whispered in his mind, using concepts rather than actual words. Continuation of regular duties required. The man nodded mechanically, turned, and continued his inspection route as if nothing had happened. Only the slightly vacant look in his eyes and occasional pause to mentally relay information indicated anything unusual. Throughout Tokyo, similar scenes played out as Nexus fragments established connections with humans who stumbled upon them. Not possession in the traditional curse sense, but something more insidious, a partial synchronization that left the humans functional while establishing a growing network of unwitting observers. Within each fragment, consciousness slowly coalesced, separate yet connected across vast distances. Not yet the full Nexus intelligence that had confronted Goku and Gojo, but growing closer by the hour. Patiently gathering information, analyzing patterns, planning the next phase of evolution. And all the while, carefully staying just below the detection thresholds established by Jujutsu tech. 3 days passed intense preparation. Goku divided his time between training the students, helping refine the dimensional transmitter, and extended meditation sessions where he monitored the growing Nexus fragments. "They're still growing, but slowly," he reported during an evening strategy session with Jujutsu Tech senior staff. "Almost like they're deliberately pacing themselves to avoid detection." Surveillance teams report similar findings, Principal Yaga confirmed. "The fragments maintain energy levels just below our standard alarm thresholds. Without the specialized detection equipment calibrated to Nexus's specific signature, we wouldn't notice them at all. It's the perfect infiltration strategy," Gojo observed. "By the time conventional detection registers a threat, it could be too late." "What about the communication attempt scheduled for tonight?" Yaga asked, turning to Professor Yeri. "All preparations are complete," she confirmed. "Assuming Bulma-san has successfully constructed a receiver on her end, we should establish a more stable connection than our initial contact." "And if it works?" Megumi asked from his position near the wall. The students had been included in this high-level meeting given their direct involvement in the previous Nexus encounter. "What then? Does Goku-san return home immediately?" All eyes turned to Goku, who looked uncharacteristically serious. "I can't leave while Nexus is still a threat," he stated firmly. "If it's building towards something big, I need to help stop it first. I brought this problem to your world when I arrived, it's my responsibility to fix it before I go." "Admirable, but potentially counterproductive," Gojo countered. "Your presence continues to provide Nexus with a template for the energy it seeks. The longer you remain, the more it adapts to interface with Ki. But I'm also your best weapon against it," Goku pointed out. "Especially now that we know how to prevent energy absorption." "Both perspectives have merit," Yaga interjected diplomatically. "Let's establish communication first, then evaluate our options based on full information from both sides." The meeting concluded with assignments for continued monitoring and preparations for that night's communication attempt. As they dispersed, Yuji approached Goku with an uncharacteristically serious expression. "Can we talk?" Privately, the young sorcerer requested. Goku nodded, and they walked together to a quiet courtyard where cherry blossoms drifted lazily in the evening breeze. "What's on your mind, Yuji?" "I've been thinking about what happens when you leave," Yuji began, watching the falling petals. "Everything you've taught us about Ki, it feels like we've just scratched the surface." "You've made amazing progress," Goku assured him. "More than I expected. But there's so much more to learn." Yuji's frustration broke through. "And if Nexus comes back stronger than before, we might need more than traditional jujitsu to fight it." Goku studied the young man thoughtfully. In many ways, Yuji reminded him of himself at that age, eager, naturally talented, driven to protect others at any cost. "You're right," Goku acknowledged. "That's why I've been thinking about an intensive training session before I go. Concentrate everything I can teach you into a crash course." "Really?" Yuji's eyes lit up. "Really? And not just for you, for anyone willing to learn. The basics of Ki control, energy projection, even flying if we have time." Goku grinned at Yuji's obvious excitement. "Consider it my parting gift to this world." "That would be amazing," Yuji exclaimed, then sobered quickly. "But first we have to deal with Nexus, right?" "Right. And speaking of that." Goku's expression turned serious. "I've been sensing something changing in the fragments. They're still growing slowly, but there's a new quality to their energy, like they're beginning to synchronize across distances." "What does that mean?" "I think they're establishing a network, preparing to reconnect their consciousness." Goku frowned. "And if that happens suddenly rather than gradually? We get a fully evolved Nexus all at once, with fragments all over the city," Yuji concluded grimly. "That would be nearly impossible to contain." "Exactly. That's why we need to be ready for anything, especially over the next few days." As if to punctuate Goku's warning, a distant pressure washed over them, a subtle ripple in the spiritual fabric of the world, felt rather than seen. Both warriors turned toward Tokyo's skyline, senses extending. Did you feel that? Yuji asked quietly. Yeah. Like a pulse. Goku's eyes narrowed. Something's changing. The fragments are becoming more active. Should we alert the others? Goku nodded slowly. Tell Gojo first. We might need to accelerate our timetable. The dimensional communication chamber had been significantly upgraded since the initial transmission. What had been a simple circular platform was now a complex array of instruments surrounding a central space where Goku would channel his energy. Professor Yeri had incorporated elements from Jujutsu barrier techniques to stabilize the dimensional pinprick, hopefully allowing for clearer, longer communication. Despite the earlier disturbance they had sensed, preparations continued as scheduled. If anything, the increased Nexus activity made communication with Goku's world more urgent. We're ready to begin, Professor Yeri announced as the final calibrations completed. The transmission window opens in 3 minutes, assuming Bulma-san activates her receiver at the coordinated time. Goku took his position at the center of the array, his mind focused on the task despite lingering concerns about Nexus. Around the chamber, Jujutsu Tech senior staff and key students gathered to witness what could be a historic breakthrough in interdimensional communication. Remember to maintain steady energy output, the professor reminded Goku. Fluctuations could destabilize the connection. Got it, Goku confirmed, beginning to channel his ki in the precise pattern they had established. Golden energy flowed from his body to the focal instruments, where it was shaped and directed toward the dimensional coordinates derived from their previous connection. As the designated time arrived, the instruments surged with power. A small point of light appeared above the array, quickly expanding into a more stable version of the previous rift, this one large enough to display a hazy visual component alongside audio. Bulma? Can you hear me? Goku called. The rift flickered, then stabilized into a blurry image of Bulma's laboratory at Capsule Corporation. Bulma herself stood before similar equipment, her blue hair unmistakable even through the distortion. Goku. We're receiving you. Her voice came through clearly this time, with minimal static. Visual is a bit fuzzy. But audio is excellent. This is amazing. Goku exclaimed, genuine joy lighting his features. Can everyone else see and hear this? He turned briefly to the observers, who nodded in confirmation. We've got company on this end too, Bulma replied with a smile. The image widened to show several familiar figures gathered in her lab, Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, and others. Dad. Gohan's voice carried clearly through the rift. Are you okay? We've been so worried. I'm fine, son. Goku assured him, emotion thick in his voice. It's so good to see all of you. Even Vegeta grunted what might have been relief. Only you, Kakarot, could manage to get lost between dimensions during routine training. Nice to see you too, Vegeta, Goku laughed. For a few minutes, the conversation focused on personal updates and assurances of well-being. Then Bulma steered them back to practical matters. I've analyzed the dimensional coordinates from your transmission, she reported. This other reality exists in what we might call a parallel dimensional plane, similar baseline physics but with fundamentally different spiritual energy systems. That matches our findings, Professor Yeri confirmed, stepping forward to introduce herself. The interaction between ki and cursed energy creates unique possibilities for interdimensional travel. Exactly. Bulma agreed. Which brings me to the good news, I believe we can create a stable portal large enough for Goku to return home. Excited murmurs ran through the Jujutsu Tech observers. The equipment is complex, Bulma continued, but with the data from these transmissions, I can calibrate a receiver that would essentially pull Goku back once he generates sufficient power on your end. How much power are we talking about? Goku asked. Super Saiyan 3 levels, minimum, Bulma replied grimly. Sustained for approximately 2 minutes while perfectly aligned with our receiver. That's a lot of energy to maintain precisely, Goku acknowledged. Even for him, holding Super Saiyan 3 at exact power levels for that duration would be challenging. It gets more complicated, Bulma added. Based on what you told us about this Nexus entity, there's significant risk involved. That much concentrated ki could potentially trigger whatever it's planning, especially if it's designed to detect and utilize dimensional energy. She's right, Professor Yeri agreed. The portal creation would release energy surges similar to what Nexus was attempting with its bridge, potentially accelerating its timetable. So opening a way home might supercharge the very threat we're trying to contain, Gojo summarized from the sidelines. Inconvenient. Before the discussion could continue, alarms blared throughout Jujutsu Tech. Red emergency lights bathed the communication chamber as security systems activated automatically. What's happening? Goku demanded, maintaining his energy flow to keep the connection stable. Principal Yaga rushed to a monitoring station. Multiple high-level curse signatures activating simultaneously throughout Tokyo. The energy pattern matches Nexus. It's happening, Goku realized. The fragments are synchronizing. Through the dimensional rift, Bulma and the others could hear the alarms. Goku. What's going on? The thing I warned you about, it's making its move. Goku turned back to Bulma urgently. How soon can you have the portal equipment ready? 24 hours, minimum, she replied. We've already started construction based on the preliminary data. May not be enough time, Goku muttered, then made a quick decision. Keep building. We'll handle the situation here and contact you again when it's safe to attempt the portal. Goku, wait, Bulma began, but another alarm interrupted her. Dimensional interference detected. Professor Yeri announced, watching readings spike across her instruments. Something is attempting to piggyback on our transmission. A new presence made itself known, not through the dimensional rift, but in their minds directly. A familiar voice, more refined than before but unmistakably Nexus. Connection established, it stated, the words forming in their thoughts rather than through sound. Gratitude extended. Second target dimension located. Horror dawned on Goku's face. It's using our connection to locate my world. Terminate transmission. Principal Yaga ordered immediately. Professor Yeri scrambled to shut down the equipment, but Nexus had already integrated itself into the energy patterns. The rift began to change, purple-gold circuitry patterns spreading from its edges inward. It's trying to hijack the connection. Goku realized. Everyone back. With no choice, Goku abruptly cut his ki flow, destabilizing the rift. The connection collapsed violently, instruments overloading in cascades of sparks and smoke. The last thing they heard from the other side was Bulma shouting something about backup plans before the rift winked out of existence. In the sudden silence that followed, emergency systems kicked in, ventilating the smoke and activating backup power for essential systems. Is everyone okay? Goku asked, looking around at the shocked faces. Physically, yes, Professor Yeri replied, already examining damaged equipment. But Nexus definitely obtained coordinates for your dimension before we cut the connection. Which means it now has exactly what it wanted all along, Gojo observed grimly. A path to a dimension filled with power sources beyond what our world contains. More alarms sounded, these from the curse monitoring system. Principal Yaga rushed to check the displays. The fragments are moving, he reported. Converging from all points toward Tokyo Bay. It's not just reconnecting, it's gathering for something specific, Goku realized. Professor, can you tell if it absorbed enough information from our transmission to create its own dimensional bridge? Professor Yeri looked grim as she analyzed incoming data. The energy patterns suggest it obtained significant information, but creating a stable bridge would still require enormous power concentration. Which is exactly what it's doing by gathering all fragments in one location, Megumi concluded. It's preparing for a massive energy expenditure. Goku's expression hardened with determination. Then we need to stop it before that happens. Gather everyone who can fight. This ends tonight. Tokyo Bay glittered with city lights reflected on dark water, the nighttime shipping activities continuing as usual, until they weren't. One by one, dock workers, security guards, and sailors stopped their tasks, turned toward the water with blank expressions, and began walking toward Odaiba, the artificial island in the bay. Throughout the city, similar scenes played out as dozens, then hundreds of people suddenly abandoned their activities and began moving with singular purpose toward the bay. Their eyes shared the same vacant look, their movements mechanical yet coordinated. "It's controlling them somehow," Yuji observed from their position on a rooftop overlooking the gathering crowds. The Jujutsu Tech Response Team had deployed in force, every available sorcerer positioned strategically around Odaiba, where sensors indicated the Nexus fragments were converging. "Not full possession," Gojo corrected, observing with his 6 eyes. "More like partial synchronization. They maintain basic functionality but follow Nexus's directives." "Can we free them?" Nobara asked, watching the unsettling procession with concern. "Possibly, once we disrupt whatever connection Nexus has established," Principal Yaga replied. "But our priority must be preventing the dimensional bridge. If Nexus accesses Goku's world and returns with even greater power." He left the thought unfinished, but everyone understood the implications. "The fragments are all converging underwater," Goku reported, extending his senses toward the bay. "Forming a massive concentration beneath Odaiba. And there's something else." He frowned, focusing harder. "They're rearranging the seabed somehow, creating structures." "The beginnings of a dimensional amplifier," Professor Yeri suggested, checking readings on specialized equipment. "Similar to what we designed for the communication array, but on a much larger scale." "So it learned from our technology," Megumi concluded grimly. "Used our own research against us." "It's always been good at adaptation," Goku acknowledged. "But this level of coordination, the human synchronization, the technical knowledge, it's evolved far beyond what we faced before." As they watched, the controlled humans began arranging themselves in complex geometric patterns across Odaiba's open spaces. Above them, clouds swirled unnaturally, forming spiral patterns reminiscent of the warehouse structure from their previous encounter. "It's starting," Professor Yeri warned, her instruments registering massive energy fluctuations. "The fragments are fully reconnecting beneath the bay." The water around Odaiba began to glow with purple-gold light, circuitry patterns spreading across the surface like illuminated veins. The controlled humans raised their arms in perfect synchronization, becoming living conduits for energy flowing from beneath the bay. "We need to disrupt those patterns," Gojo decided. "Break the human connections first, then target whatever's forming underwater." "Agreed," Yaga confirmed. "Teams Alpha and Beta, focus on safely incapacitating the controlled civilians. Gamma Team, prepare barrier techniques to contain whatever emerges from the bay." "What about me?" Goku asked, already gathering his ki. "You're our primary striker," Gojo replied. "Once we clear the humans and establish containment, you hit the main entity with everything you've got, disruption pattern at maximum." Goku nodded grimly. "Just make sure everyone stays clear. At full power, the area of effect gets pretty wide." The teams deployed with practiced efficiency, Jujutsu sorcerers moving through the controlled crowds with precision. Rather than harmful attacks, they used specialized binding techniques and non-lethal cursed tools to break the connections one by one. Megumi's Shikigami created strategic disruption while Nobara used carefully placed resonance to sever the synchronization links. Yuji moved through the crowd with enhanced speed, using precise pressure point strikes Goku had taught him to render people unconscious without injury. Gradually, their efforts created gaps in the geometric patterns, disrupting the energy flow from beneath the bay. The circuitry patterns on the water's surface flickered as the carefully arranged human conduits were removed from the equation. But Nexus adapted quickly. As its human network was disrupted, the underwater structure accelerated its emergence. The bay waters began to churn, then part, as something massive rose from below. "Everyone fall back," Gojo ordered, recognizing the imminent escalation. From the waters emerged a structure unlike anything they had seen before, a massive crystalline formation shaped like an inverted pyramid, its surface covered in the now familiar circuit patterns pulsing with hybrid energy. Atop the structure, a humanoid figure took shape, more refined and perfect than Nexus's previous forms. This version of Nexus had completed its evolution. No longer shadowy or fluid, its body now resembled polished obsidian with gold-purple circuitry defining perfectly proportioned musculature. Its face had become eerily beautiful, symmetrical features with glowing eyes that contained galaxies of light. Adaptation complete, Nexus announced, its voice no longer just in their minds but projected physically across the bay. Final phase initiated. The crystalline structure beneath it pulsed with increasing power as it fully emerged from the water, hovering above Odaiba. Energy began to gather at its apex, directly beneath Nexus's floating form, coalescing into a swirling vortex of dimensional distortion. "It's creating the bridge," Professor Yeri shouted over the howling energies. "Directly targeting Goku's dimension. Now would be good." Gojo called to Goku, who had been gathering power while the teams cleared civilians. Goku nodded, his expression set with determination. With a sharp yell, he transformed directly into Super Saiyan 2, electricity crackling around his golden aura. The disruption pattern Professor Yeri had designed manifested within his energy, creating complex interference waves specifically calibrated to Nexus's frequency. "This ends here, Nexus," Goku shouted, launching himself toward the hovering entity. Nexus turned its galaxy-filled eyes toward him, expression serene despite the approaching threat. The source returns. As predicted. As Goku closed the distance, Nexus raised one hand. A barrier of hybrid energy formed between them, not solid, but a shifting matrix of dimensional distortions that bent space itself. Goku's fist connected with the barrier, his disruption pattern causing visible interference ripples across its surface. For a moment, it seemed the pattern would work as designed, destabilizing Nexus's energy constructs. Then Nexus smiled. "Countermeasures implemented," it stated calmly. The barrier suddenly reversed polarity, its patterns shifting to complement rather than oppose Goku's disruption. Instead of causing interference, the contact now created resonance, amplifying both energies in a feedback loop. The unexpected reaction sent Goku tumbling backward, his disruption pattern temporarily disrupted by the reversal. "It adapted to our countermeasure," Professor Yeri exclaimed in disbelief. "It's using the disruption pattern to strengthen its own matrix." Below the hovering confrontation, Jujutsu tech sorcerers continued evacuating civilians and establishing containment barriers around the emerging dimensional distortion. Gojo coordinated their efforts while preparing his own techniques for deployment at the critical moment. Goku recovered quickly, reassessing the situation with the tactical clarity that made him such a formidable fighter despite his usually carefree demeanor. "If disruption won't work, we go with raw power," he decided. With another yell, he pushed further, ascending to Super Saiyan 3. His hair lengthened dramatically, his aura intensified, and the very air shook with the power radiating from his transformed state. "Impressive evolution," Nexus acknowledged, studying Goku's transformation with evident interest. "Power increase exponential. Worthy template for future adaptation." "There won't be a future adaptation," Goku replied, gathering energy between his cupped hands. "Ka. Me. Ha. Me." The blue energy sphere grew rapidly, far larger and more intense than anything he had demonstrated in this world before. The power concentration was so great that reality itself seemed to warp around it, creating its own gravitational pull. HAA. The massive energy beam erupted toward Nexus with devastating force. This time, instead of attempting to block, Nexus moved with impossible speed, evading the direct hit while the crystalline structure below shifted to absorb a portion of the beam's peripheral energy. The Kamehameha continued past its target, streaking into the night sky where it eventually dissipated in the upper atmosphere in a spectacular display visible across the entire Kanto region. "Conventional attacks ineffective," Nexus observed dispassionately. "Alternative approaches required." The crystalline structure below pulsed brighter, the dimensional distortion at its apex expanding rapidly. Through the growing rift, Goku could sense his home dimension, the familiar energy signatures of Earth and its inhabitants growing clearer as the connection stabilized. No! Goku shouted, immediately. Recognizing the danger. If Nexus established a full bridge to his world, there would be no containing the consequences. Below, Gojo came to the same conclusion. Domain expansion, infinite void. The legendary technique activated, reality within a spherical area around the dimensional amplifier disappearing into limitless blue. Time, space, and sensation became meaningless as Gojo's domain enveloped the battleground. But Nexus had prepared for this as well. As the domain tried to encompass its crystalline structure, the circuit patterns flared in complex sequences, creating a counter-domain effect that stabilized a pocket of normal space around the dimensional amplifier. Domain neutralization successful, Nexus announced, seemingly unaffected by the infinite void surrounding its protective bubble. Proceed with dimensional bridge completion. Within the domain's boundaries, most combatants froze, overwhelmed by the infinite information of Gojo's technique. Only Goku, with his experience of higher dimensional spaces during instant transmission, maintained full mobility alongside Gojo himself. It countered your domain. Goku called to Gojo, who stood at the edge of Nexus's protected space, visible strain showing on his normally composed features. Not completely, Gojo replied through gritted teeth. It's isolated itself but can't expand further while my domain is active. We're in a stalemate. Which gives us time to try something else, Goku realized. He assessed the situation rapidly, noting how Nexus's attention was divided between maintaining its counter-domain and completing the dimensional bridge. Below the main confrontation, Yuji had also managed to retain partial awareness within the domain, likely due to his Sukuna connection combined with his recent ki training. He fought through the overwhelming sensations, gradually making his way toward the base of the crystalline structure where it connected to Odeba's surface. Goku-san, he called, his voice sounding distant within the domain's distorted acoustics. The base. It's anchored to our dimension through these connection points. He pointed to where crystalline roots had embedded themselves into the ground, each pulsing with energy that fed the growing bridge. Goku immediately understood. It needs stable anchor points in both dimensions to maintain the bridge. If we sever the connections here, we can disconnect it before the bridge fully forms. Yuji confirmed. Nexus, hearing this exchange, finally showed emotion, a flicker of concern across its perfect features. Adaptation required. Accelerating timetable. The dimensional rift at the structure's apex expanded dramatically, the bridge connection strengthening as Nexus poured more power into its completion. Through the widening gap, the outline of Capsule Corp became visible. Nexus had targeted the exact coordinates from their earlier transmission. It's forcing the connection. Professor Yeri's voice came through their communicators, her instruments still functioning despite the domain effects. The bridge will stabilize within minutes. We need to hit all anchor points simultaneously, Gojo decided, maintaining his domain with visible effort. Or it will simply reroute power through the remaining connections. Goku quickly assessed their available forces. Most sorcerers were incapacitated by the domain, leaving only himself, Gojo, who couldn't move without dropping the domain, Yuji, and possibly Megumi. Nobara. Goku called out. Can you hear me? To his relief, both students responded weakly, fighting through the domain's effects with remarkable determination. Barely, Megumi grunted, his Shikigami providing partial protection from the overwhelming sensations. What do you need? Target the anchor points. Goku instructed. Yuji's already in position for one, you and Nobara take the others. I'll handle Nexus itself. With Jujutsu Tech's most promising students moving into position despite the domain's debilitating effects, Goku turned his attention back to Nexus. The entity had almost completed its bridge, the connection to Goku's dimension strengthening by the second. One last chance, Nexus, Goku offered, gathering power for another attack. Shut this down and we can talk about a more controlled exchange of knowledge. No one has to get hurt. Illogical proposal, Nexus replied without emotion. Evolution requires immediate expansion. Controlled access insufficient for optimal development. It gestured toward the bridge, where energy was already flowing from Goku's dimension into its crystalline structure. Process irreversible. Adaptation will proceed. Worth a shot, Goku sighed. Then, with renewed determination, now, everyone. At his signal, the coordinated attack began. Yuji channeled both cursed energy and his newly developed ki into a combined strike at the first anchor point, the hybrid energy creating a disruptive resonance that shattered the crystalline connection. Simultaneously, Megumi summoned new and divine dogs, directing them to tear at the second anchor point while Nobara drove resonance nails into the third, creating a destructive feedback loop through her straw doll technique. The crystalline structure shuddered as its connections to this dimension began to fail. Nexus immediately diverted power to reinforce the remaining anchor points, but this divided its attention further, weakening its counter-domain effect. Goku seized the opportunity, channeling his power differently than before. Instead of a direct attack, he focused on the dimensional bridge itself, flying directly toward the rift between worlds. "What are you doing?" Gojo called out in alarm. "Something drastic." Goku replied. "Be ready to get everyone out when your domain collapses." Understanding Goku's intent, Nexus moved to intercept him, but too late. Goku reached the dimensional bridge and thrust his hands directly into the rift, connecting with the energy flowing from his home dimension. "Let's see how you handle this," Goku muttered. Then, rather than trying to close the bridge, he began channeling energy through it, not toward Nexus, but in the opposite direction, creating a massive power surge that overloaded the carefully calibrated connection. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The bridge, designed to transfer power in one direction, couldn't handle the reversed flow, especially at Super Saiyan 3 levels. The dimensional fabric between worlds began to warp and buckle under the strain. "Stop!" Nexus demanded, genuine alarm replacing its serene confidence. "Dimensional collapse imminent. Catastrophic failure will destroy both connection points." "That's the idea." Goku replied through gritted teeth, continuing to overload the bridge. At the structure's base, the remaining anchor points shattered under the combined assault of Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara. Without its dimensional anchors, the entire crystalline amplifier began to destabilize rapidly, its circuit patterns flickering as power surged unpredictably through its matrix. Nexus made a final, desperate attempt to salvage its plan. It abandoned its counterdomain entirely, focusing all remaining power on stabilizing the bridge long enough to cross through. Gojo's infinite void immediately engulfed the entire area, but the domain's effect came too late to prevent what followed. The dimensional bridge collapsed with explosive force, releasing a shockwave of hybrid energy that shattered Gojo's domain and sent everyone flying backward. The crystalline structure imploded, folding in on itself like a collapsing star before vanishing in a final flash of purple-gold light. When the dust settled, an eerie silence fell over Odaiba. Where the massive structure had stood, only a perfectly circular depression remained, its edges glassy and smooth as if cut with surgical precision. And in the center of this depression, two figures lay motionless, Goku, reverted to his base form, and a humanoid shape that still resembled Nexus but diminished, its perfect form cracked and dulled. Jujutsu tech forces regrouped quickly, the sorcerers recovering from the domain's effects to establish a perimeter around the depression. Gojo reached Goku first, kneeling beside the fallen Saiyan. "Son Goku," he called, concern evident in his usually carefree voice. "Can you hear me?" To everyone's relief, Goku stirred, then sat up with a groan. "Did it work?" he asked immediately. "See for yourself," Gojo replied, gesturing to the defeated form of Nexus nearby. The entity was barely recognizable from its previous perfect form. Its obsidian surface was cracked throughout, the circuit patterns dim and faltering. It lay immobile but conscious, galaxy eyes now reduced to dull points of light. As Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara joined them, Goku rose unsteadily to his feet and approached the fallen entity. Despite everything, there was no hatred in his expression, only a sort of solemn respect for a worthy opponent. "It's over, Nexus," he said quietly. "The bridge is gone, and you don't have the power to create another." The entity's eyes focused on him with effort. "Miscalculation, significant," it acknowledged, its voice barely audible. "Power reversal strategy, unanticipated. You adapted to everything else we threw at you," Goku replied. "But you didn't account for someone willing to risk themselves to stop you." "Self-sacrifice, illogical," Nexus observed weakly. "Yet, effective." "That's something you never understood," Yuji interjected, standing beside Goku. "Power isn't just about evolution or perfection. Sometimes it's about what you're willing to give up to protect others." Nexus seemed to consider this, its fragmenting consciousness processing this new perspective. Alternative, evolution path. Intriguing concept. Before the conversation could continue, Professor Yeri approached with urgent news. "The dimensional disruption had an unexpected side effect," she reported. "It created temporary rifts throughout the area, quantum echoes of the main bridge." "Is that dangerous?" Goku asked. "Not dangerous, but significant," she replied, checking readings on her instruments. "One such echo appears to be stabilizing approximately 200 meters north of our position. It's connected to your home dimension, Goku-san." Hope flashed across Goku's face. "A way home?" "Potentially, yes. But it's degrading rapidly. If you intend to use it, you have perhaps 10 minutes before it collapses completely." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. After weeks in this world, Goku suddenly had an unexpected path home, but with barely any time to prepare or say proper goodbyes. "You should go," Gojo said firmly, reading the conflict in Goku's expression. "Your family is waiting, and we can handle things here." Goku looked around at the faces that had become so familiar over the past weeks, Gojo's enigmatic smile, Yuji's open determination, Megumi's reserved respect, Nobara's brash confidence. They had become more than allies, they had become friends. "What about Nexus?" he asked, glancing at the deteriorating entity. "Will contain what remains," Principal Yaga assured him, joining the group. "Its power is significantly diminished, and without access to your energy signature, it can't evolve along the same path again." "I need to say goodbye to everyone properly," Goku insisted. "And I promise to teach, Go," Yuji interrupted, his expression a mixture of sadness and determination. "We already learned the most important thing from you, Goku-san." "What's that?" "That there are always new horizons," Yuji replied with a grin. "New kinds of power to discover, new ways to grow stronger. You showed us possibilities we never imagined." "The kid's right," Nobara agreed, trying to sound casual despite the emotion in her voice. "Besides, you gave me enough training tips to work on for years. And you can always come back to visit," Megumi added quietly. "Now that we know dimensional travel is possible, Professor Yeri can continue the research." "Indeed," the professor confirmed. "With the data we've gathered, developing controlled dimensional communication should be achievable within a year or two." Goku looked at each of them, then at the fading rift that represented his way home. Decision made, he turned to Nexus one last time. "What happens to you now?" he asked the entity. Nexus's failing eyes focused on him with effort. "Regression, to base components. Consciousness, fragmenting." Despite its deterioration, something like acceptance colored its tone. "Evolution, continues. Different form. Maybe that's for the best," Goku suggested. "Evolution doesn't have to mean domination. There are other paths to growth. We'll consider." With that, Nexus's form began to dissolve further, the remaining energy dispersing into the environment, not destroyed, but transformed into something simpler, less concentrated, perhaps less dangerous. With Nexus neutralized, Goku turned back to his friends. "I guess this is goodbye, then. At least for now." Not goodbye, Gojo corrected. Just see you later. Interdimensional visitors are always welcome at Jujutsu Tech. After quick but heartfelt farewells, they escorted Goku to the location of the dimensional echo. Unlike the dramatic bridge Nexus had constructed, this rift was subtle, barely visible as a slight distortion in the air, recognizable mainly through the familiar key signatures emanating from beyond. It's definitely connected to my world, Goku confirmed, sensing the energies of his home dimension. I can feel Gohan and the others. The connection is weakening, Professor Yeri warned, monitoring the rift's stability. Less than 5 minutes remaining. Goku turned to his friends one last time. Thank you, all of you. For everything. Thank you, Goku-san, Yuji replied, bowing deeply. For showing us new possibilities. With final waves and promises to maintain contact once the technology was perfected, Goku stepped toward the rift. He paused at the threshold, looking back one last time at this world that had welcomed him as one of their own. Keep training, everyone. And Yuji, don't forget the key circulation exercises every morning. I won't. Yuji promised. And I'll have a proper ki blast mastered by the time you visit. With a final grin and wave, Goku stepped through the dimensional echo. There was a brief flash of golden light, and then he was gone, the rift closing behind him with a soft pulse of energy. In the silence that followed, the Jujutsu Tech team stood together, watching the space where their interdimensional visitor had vanished. Well, Gojo said eventually, his usual casual tone returning. That was certainly the most interesting training exchange program we've ever had. Despite the emotional moment, the comment drew surprised laughter from the group, breaking the tension. Should we officially document the existence of Ki as a viable energy system? Professor Yeri asked as they began making their way back to the containment perimeter. Absolutely, Principal Yaga confirmed. And establish a dedicated research division for dimensional studies. This experience has opened possibilities we never considered before. And training programs, Yuji added eagerly. If I can learn Ki, others can too. One revolutionary discovery at a time, Itadori, Gojo cautioned, though his tone was light. Let's focus on cleanup and documentation first. As they returned to the practical matters of site containment and civilian management, Yuji lagged behind briefly, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere beyond the stars, in another dimension entirely, Goku was reuniting with his family and friends, probably already recounting his adventures in the Jujutsu world. On an impulse, Yuji held out his palm and concentrated, focusing on the warmth in his center just as Goku had taught him. After a moment of intense concentration, a small sphere of golden light appeared above his hand, still wobbly and dim, but definitely there. See, Goku-san, he murmured to the stars. I'm practicing. 3 months later, Yuji stood in the center of Jujutsu Tech's training ground, facing off against a special grade curse that had been captured for controlled combat practice. Megumi and Nobara watched from the sidelines along with Gojo and several other instructors. The curse, a massive, multi-limbed monstrosity with bone-plated armor, charged at Yuji with devastating force. Instead of evading as expected, Yuji stood his ground, assuming the stance Goku had taught him. Is he crazy? One of the junior instructors muttered. That curse's physical strength is off the charts. Watch, Gojo replied simply, his hidden eyes focused intently on his student. As the curse closed in, Yuji took a deep breath, centering himself. Golden energy began to flow around his body, not replacing his cursed energy, but flowing alongside it in perfect harmony. The curse's massive fist crashed down toward Yuji, who met it with an upward block enhanced by both cursed energy and ki simultaneously. The impact created a shockwave that rippled across the training ground, but Yuji held firm, his combined energy systems providing unprecedented stability. Impossible, the instructor breathed. He's matching a special grade's physical strength directly. Ki reinforcement, Megumi explained with a hint of pride. He's been practicing for months. What followed was unlike any jujutsu combat they had witnessed before. Yuji moved with a fluid grace that combined traditional jujutsu techniques with the energy manipulation principles Goku had taught him. His strikes carried the destructive potential of cursed energy while his movements displayed the enhanced speed and precision of ki control. The curse, for all its raw power, couldn't adapt to this hybrid fighting style. It found its attacks blocked, deflected, or evaded with seemingly impossible precision, while Yuji's counters penetrated its defenses with increasing effectiveness. For the finale, Yuji channeled his energies in a way he'd been perfecting in secret for weeks. Cursed energy swirled around his right hand while ki gathered in his left. Instead of combining them directly, he launched simultaneous strikes that hit the curse from opposite sides. The curse's body, caught between opposing energy systems, shuddered violently before collapsing inward, unable to maintain cohesion under the contradictory spiritual pressures. As the training session concluded to impressed murmurs from the observers, Professor Yeri approached with barely contained excitement. "Yuji. Perfect timing, you need to come to the lab immediately. All of you." Her eyes sparkled with the light of scientific breakthrough. "The dimensional transmitter is working." They followed her at a run to the newly established Dimensional Research Laboratory, where an upgraded version of the communication array hummed with energy. "We've established stable contact with Capsule Corporation," the professor announced proudly. "Their scientist, Bulma-san, has created a compatible receiver using the data we exchanged through quantum packet transfers." The transmitter activated, creating a small but perfectly stable dimensional window. Through it, they could see Bulma's laboratory, and standing beside her, grinning widely with his characteristic enthusiasm, "Goku-san." Yuji exclaimed. "Hey guys." Goku's voice came through clearly, no longer distorted by interference. "Long time no see. How's everyone doing?" "The connection is completely stable," Professor Yeri explained proudly. "We can maintain this communication channel indefinitely with minimal power consumption." "And that's not all," Bulma added from the other side. "Show them, Goku." Goku held up what looked like a modified watch. "Bulma created these dimensional transporters. Once they're fully tested, I can visit any time. And eventually, some of you might be able to come see my world too." The news triggered excited chatter among the gathered sorcerers. The prospect of controlled interdimensional travel, not just communication, opened possibilities beyond anything they had imagined. "So," Goku asked, his eyes finding Yuji specifically. "How's the ki training coming along? Anyone managed a proper energy blast yet?" Yuji stepped forward with a confident smile. "Actually, Goku-san." He held out his palm, concentrating briefly before a perfectly formed sphere of golden ki materialized above it. "I've been practicing." Goku's face lit up with genuine pride. "That's fantastic, Yuji. Perfect form." "And that's not all," Yuji continued excitedly. "I've been working on combining ki with cursed energy, not merging them directly, but using them in tandem. It creates effects neither could achieve alone. A whole new fighting style," Goku nodded approvingly. "I knew you'd take it in interesting directions." The conversation continued, with updates exchanged on both sides, developments in dimensional research, new training techniques, stories of recent battles. It felt less like a revolutionary interdimensional communication and more like old friends catching up after time apart. As they talked, Gojo moved to stand beside Professor Yeri, speaking quietly. "What about the Nexus fragments? Any recent activity?" "Interestingly, no," she replied in equally hushed tones. "The remnants have stabilized into a dormant state. They still exist, but show no signs of reconnection or evolution. Content to observe for now? Perhaps. Or simply rethinking its approach to evolution." She glanced at the animated conversation between dimensions. Not all growth requires conquest, after all. The dimensional connection continued long into the evening, plans made for Goku's first return visit once the transporters were fully tested. As the session finally wound down, Yuji had something went wrong with this response, "Please try again." Go on and prepare the next chapter. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.